Hey guys. This is part 5 of What If Naruto Was in Marvel Universe. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 24. A Change is Gonna Come. Date: March 29th, 2015. Location: Winchester, Virginia. The roar of a barely maintained engine was muffled out by the various mutters and whispers of the passengers within the bus the engine powered. The blocky vehicle chugged along down the street at a tedious pace, causing one of its occupants to groan in annoyance. "Why are we taking a bus again?" Ileana groaned. "Because there are no taxis here and I don't want to rent a car." "It's not my fault you teleported us to some random building in the city," Naruto answered from his seat next to her. "And it's not my fault that there's no picture of the place he works on Google. And I picked the first picture I saw when I Googled the town," Ileana muttered. "Well, then it's clearly no one's fault, and we're just gonna have to accept the fact that we're riding a bus," Naruto said curtly, folding his arms over his chest. Ileana looked over at her partner, sighing as she said, "Sorry." Sighing himself, Naruto said, "Me too. This is," Ileana admitted. "I should have just let you do this alone like you wanted." Naruto shook his head. "No, you've got every right to come along." "That and what?" Naruto sighed. "Well, things have been, well, you know. It's been awkward as fuck. And I think we just need to break the ice a little bit, you know? So, I figured this was the best way to do it." "Right," Ileana said slowly. Turning to him, she said, "I agree. I mean, yes, sure, we made a huge mistake, huge," Naruto reassured. "But we're adults. And we're friends. We're a part of a team. And when you're all of those things, sometimes there's gonna be a bump on the road. And this was just one of those bumps," Naruto asked. "Exactly," Ileana reassured. "We've just gotta stop being weird. Weird like when you almost got into a fight with Jessica Jones when we went to go talk to her about helping us out," Naruto offered. Ileana looked away at that. She was being, well, an asshole. I mean, technically she was, but that's just everyday Jessica. She wasn't actually trying to be rude. As soon as he said that, Naruto corrected himself. "Okay, well, that's probably not true, but you get what I mean. I just don't like her," Ileana rationalized. "The way she talks to you just pisses me off." "Well, she's been helping me out, and will continue to help me out if I pay her," Naruto said. "Why don't you just make her a member then?" Ileana asked, though she was glad he hadn't yet. The blonde man shrugged. "Because I know she'll say no. She's a lone wolf kinda girl." "Yeah, well, she's a bitch alright," the sorcerer mumbled, much to Naruto's hidden amusement. With that, the two entered a slightly more comfortable silence. As the bus trekked on and on, a thought suddenly came up to the master of the mystic arts trainee. Looking at Naruto, she asked, "Can I ask you a question?" "Sure," Naruto answered with a shrug. "Why didn't you learn any kind of magic from the Ancient One? Like, you could have learned how to use a sling ring and teleport it to yourself home. Hell, a good chunk of the things I've learned could be useful to you," Ileana observed. The blonde laughed to himself, scratching the back of his head. "Do you know how many people have asked me that?" Ileana raised an eyebrow. "No? Freaking everyone that is aware of my relationship with the masters of the mystic arts. Every fucking one," Naruto explained. "Well, make it one more then," she said with a helpful smile. "Fine." He relented. "I can't do it, that's why." "You can't?" "Yup. I can't." There was a thick pause as Ileana gave Naruto a blank look. Finally, she muttered, "That's hilarious." Naruto lowered his head in defeat. "I'm not joking." Looking over, he explained, "I asked AC to train me in the ways of the mystic arts, and she told me that I wasn't capable of learning anything she had to teach, magically. She helped me get up to date information-wise, but other than that all I did when I was at the temple was sit around and spar with anyone willing." "But, you can breathe fire and walk on water," Ileana wondered. "That's not magic, that's chakra. Chakra is the combination of the physical and spiritual energies my people are all born with. As you probably know, the magic you learn is dependent on a kind of energy called personal energy. Technically, personal and spiritual energies are brothers in almost every way, but my people are unable to separate our spiritual energies from the physical. The two are forever bonded to make chakra. They're symbiotic of each other in that sense. So, you have the thing necessary to learn, but you can't use it the way you need to actually learn it. Ileana summarized. There are two others, universal and dimensional, but those are some advanced studies that require years of study and discipline after I get an understanding of personal energies. Naruto said with a shrug. In other words, I'm literally incapable of learning from the masters of the mystic arts. Wow. Ileana mumbled. That sucks. That's exactly what I said. Naruto said. Ileana pauses for a moment before looking over at the blonde again. Why do you call her AC? Naruto gave a large smirk. AC equals ancient chick. The blonde mystic blinked at the stupidity of what she just heard. You call the Ancient One of the most powerful sorcerers ever known, ancient chick? AC for short. That's so lame. His smile growing, Naruto said. That's what makes it perfect. She blinked again. Does she know that that's what it means? I dunno. Naruto said with a shrug. Ileana looked up as the bus came to a stop. I think this is our stop. Pulling the cord above them, the two got up and exited the bus. Stepping off, they looked around before spotting their destination. Pointing, Naruto said. There it is, that's where he works. Ileana looked at the average-sized grocery store in front of them. I can't believe someone who's ranked by the world government to be as dangerous as Bruce Banner works at a local grocery store. Well, in his defense, he is an ex-con who'd been in prison since he was 9 years old. It's not like he's going to come out with every opportunity available to him. Naruto defended. Walking into the store, Naruto looked around for an employee. Spotting someone behind the customer service desk, the two quickly walked over as Naruto asked, Excuse me, ma'am, but do you know if Owen Reese is working today? The woman, her lips smacking as she tore away at the gum in her mouth, asked, Owen? Yeah. Looking them over, she asked, You his parole officer or something? No, just some old friends. Naruto lied smoothly. Seemingly believing him, the woman pointed towards the back of the store. He works over in the dairy. Just knock on one of the doors if you don't see him. Walking to the back of the store, the two looked around for the man that matched the picture in the shield file. Not seeing him, Ileana walked over to the row of dairy doors as she gave a sharp knock on the glass. Can I help you? The two turning around, they found the man they were looking for behind them. A lanky young man around Naruto's age with a dark complexion, he looked at them with barely reserved annoyance, his eyebrow twitching in both curiosity and impatience. His body was hunched in and his clothes disheveled, with barely kept hair and wrinkled work shirt that looked to be a size too big. Are you Owen Reese? Ileana asked. No. Owen said after some thought, trying to walk past them. He stopped at Ileana said. We read your file, Owen. What you can do is incredible. Owen narrowed his eyes in suspicion. Are you guys with S.H.I.E.L.D. or something? No. Ileana said. We just want to talk about a common interest we all have. And what's that? Naruto and Ileana shared a look, looking around to make sure no one was watching. Ileana opened a portal the size of a basketball right next to her, another of the same size opening next to Owen. Placing her hand through the portal next to her and out the other, she tapped Owen's shoulder. Owen, his eyes nearly bugging out of his skull in shock, looked back at the two in a new light. Think you can take a break so we can talk? Naruto asked. Yeah, sure. Owen, a cigarette in hand, leaned up against the building as he took a drag. Having taken them outside to the back of the store, Owen told them they could talk freely there. So, you both got powers like me. You want me to join your club or something? Owen asked as he released a breath, smoke pluming from his lips. We read your file, Naruto said. Your powers, they're pretty scary. If you were to master them, I can't even describe what you could be. The man took another drag. You know, I've heard this speech before. And out of all of them, yours is probably the worst. And trust me, I ain't no hero. What kind of club are you guys again? We're building a team to hunt down and protect a collection of items called the Infinity Stones. Ileana answered. Never heard of them. Owen dismissed. You wouldn't have, said Naruto calmly. But trust me when I say that they're dangerous in the wrong hands. Trust you, huh? Owen said. And how do I know that you're not the wrong hands? I understand if you don't trust me. And in all honesty, I didn't think you'd be up to join right away. Instead, I'm going to give you an opportunity. Naruto stated. Let me teach you how to use your powers. Use my powers? Owen asked. That's right. Owen took another drag. You read my file, right? Naruto nodded. Then you know why I got locked up. I hurt people. I lost control, and because of that people died. After that I hated using my powers. Owen explained as he released the smoke from his lungs. Naruto ran his hands through his hair. Yeah, I read that. That's why I want you on my team. Owen's brows scrunched in confusion. What? I know what it's like to hurt people with a power you can't control, Naruto said softly. I've hurt people I loved. I know what it's like to hate that power and to shun the idea of using it. I know what it's like to fight for every inch of control, all in the vain attempt that maybe one day you won't have to hurt anybody else. I had to literally fight with myself over control. But in the end it worked. And I don't have to worry it anymore. My curse became my blessing. I can help you do the same thing. The cigarette smoked down to the butt. Owen looked it over as he said. My mom used to call my powers a blessing too. Something would break around the house, and I'd be her big helper by fixing it good as new. But she was afraid of what the world would say about me if they found out. This was all before people with gifts were expected to become superheroes. This was when you expected to get ostracized. I grew up thinking I'd never be the world's heroes. My mom always made sure to tell me that. But she thought I needed to use my gifts, that I needed to be a hero of something. So, she replaced herself with the world. I became her hero. The cigarette butt in his hand began to glow, quickly reforming into a full cigarette, good as new. Bringing it to his mouth, the tip on the other end lit up for a moment, lighting up the cigarette. Taking a long drag, he finished. Then she died. And I hurt people. That kinda put a damper on the whole hero business. If you hated using your powers, how did you learn to do that? Ileana asked, impressed at the small display. Blowing another cloud of smoke, Owen answered. I was in solitary confinement for my entire sentence. The only human contact I had was with Mr. Pierce, the warden, and a physician named Dr. Kirby. Mr. Pierce would try and sell me on how I should use my powers, and Dr. Kirby would make sure I wasn't killing myself when I used them. Both of them would come by once, maybe twice a month. But the warden? He'd come in on a weekly basis. He'd ask me to train or use my powers in some way with the promise of a reward. Make 10 copies of a brick, I'd get a softer mattress. Make the blocks disappear, I got a better meal that night. Make his clipboard bigger, he'd give me some school books to study. Make some evidence disappear, I got a bigger cell with a window. If I refused or failed to do what he wanted, he'd take those things away. That's terrible, Ileana said. Owen shrugged. It made me learn the basics, I guess. Then how about you come and learn the advanced stuff? Naruto offered. Taking one last puff, Owen flicked the cigarette away. When the warden had me doing all that stuff, I told myself that if I ever got out of that I'd never be anybody's monkey ever again. I'm not gonna dance for you, man. Then don't do it for me. Do it for yourself. Trust me when I say that getting the weight of that burden off your shoulders is the greatest thing you can do for yourself right now. Because if you don't, you're just holding yourself back. Naruto tried to argue. Owen seemed to be getting agitated as the conversation continued to go in circles. Look man, I can't just go off with you guys. I've got the FBI all over me after S.H.I.E.L.D. fell apart, that and I've got my job. The job I need to live. So, unless you can make all of those things go away we can pay you. Ileana cut in. We've recently gotten a benefactor whose family is literally the richest in the world. That means a place to live too. Okay, but I'll take care of the FBI. Naruto assured confidently. Owen looked at him as though he were an idiot. You can't just take care of the FBI. The warrior smiled at the challenge. If I do, will you agree to at least come over and let me teach you? Naruto offered hopefully. Sighing in pure agitation, Owen rubbed his face with both hands. Look, I gotta get back to work. Walking past them, he stopped as he was about to turn the corner. Having an almost physical fight with himself, Owen finally relented as he turned back around. If you do all the shit you said you'd do, I'll do it. But only then. With that, Owen turned the corner as he jammed his hands in his pockets. Looking at each other, Naruto gave a wide, victorious smile. I think we just got a yes. A month later, date, April 23rd, 2015. Location, Washington, D.C. I can't believe he's late. I can't really say I'm shocked. He's a busy kid. A busy kid that can replicate himself. Captain Rogers shot back. Tony shrugged. He'll show. The two were sitting in a waiting room within the headquarters of the CIA. Steve was sporting a standard black business suit, a pristine white dress shirt under the sharp jacket, and a matching black tie wrapped around his neck. Tony was a little more casual, with a dark tan suit with a gray dress shirt that he neglected to button all the way and lacked any kind of neck piece to tie it together. Roger squirmed in his seat. You told him the meeting was at 11, right? Yup, Stark answered as he adjusted his shades. In the morning? Pretty sure. What do you mean, pretty sure? Either you did or you didn't. Steve barked in annoyance. Tony shrugged again. I'm not gonna pretend to know exactly what I said when I told him last week. If I didn't, I assumed that he would assume the meeting would be in the morning. Who has a meeting at 11 at night? Well, you know what they say about assuming, the captain muttered. That it makes an ass out of you and me? Tony asked rhetorically. No. Stephen looked at him incredulously. Not to do it. Geez. Oh. Well, yeah, I guess that's true too, Stark admitted. Their back and forth was cut off by the door coming from the lobby swung open, revealing a rather disheveled Naruto as he asked. I'm not too late, am I? Walking forward, he quickly tried to smooth out his impossibly messy hair before straightening his jacket. Wearing a dark blue business suit, Naruto looked strangely professional. Tony smirked at the younger of the three. No, you're right on time. Well, technically he is late, Steve corrected. We just haven't been called in yet. Stark waved him off. Exactly. We're fine. Sitting down next to Steve, Naruto muttered. The boss kinda lost track of time and totally spaced on when to send me. The boss? Steve asked, only to quickly realize with a frown. You're a copy, aren't you? The shadow clone turned his nose up in indignation. We prefer the term clone, sir. Well, what's he doing that's so important that he couldn't bother showing up in person? Rogers demanded. He's raiding a Hydra base, the clone answered. And he'll swap with me as soon as he's done. Tony raised an interested brow. And that couldn't wait, why? The shadow clone smirked. We found the dead trickster god's scepter, that's why. Moments earlier location, Novigrad, Sokovia perched upon a luscious European mountain range. The massive compound once called Orlovoto Gnezdo, or Eagle's Nest, shook as a massive tremor ripped through the nearby area. The brick-laid walls shifting back and forth, dust and loosened rubble bursting from the seams. Hanging light fixtures danced as another quake shook the facility. Who's attacking? Is it the Avengers? It has to be the Avengers. We're not seeing the Thunder God, Stark, Agent Romanoff, none of them are showing up on our feed. Then who the hell is tearing through our men like this? It's unreal. Standing amongst the chaos was a man of true stoic facade, noticeable taller than his subordinates. The man was dressed in a stiff dark green military uniform, a Hydra pin shining on his left breast. Running a hand over his shaved head, he turned his attention towards the large array of computer screens. It's not an Avenger, the man claimed, the monocle sitting on his right eye gleaming in the flickering light. I'd say it's something just as bad. One of the men occupying a computer turned to his superior. What could possibly be worse than an assault by the Avengers? Glaring down at the centermost screen, he lazily pointed out. Him, the Maelstrom. Everyone turned their attention towards the screen he was pointing at, their eyes widening as a man covered in a golden fire stampede past a squad of Hydra soldiers like a locomotive. Coming to a stop, the man somehow managed to spot the camera recording him, turning to it before giving a one-fingered salute and a goofy smile. I can't believe it, whispered a well-dressed, middle-aged man. Why is he attacking? Perhaps he heard about your experiments, Dr. List. The monocle-bearing man answered. List glared. Surely you meant our experiments, Wolfgang. You're just as guilty as the rest of us. Wolfgang Vaughn struck aside. Indeed. What are our orders, sir? Asked the closest soldier to Strucker. Strucker turned at attention. All outside forces are to converge onto the southern sector, that seems to be where he's heading. Tell every superior officer in that sector that they are to hold off the Maelstrom for as long as they can while we secure as much data as possible. When we have what we need, they'll hear a call to retreat. At no other point until then are they to try and flee, no matter what he throws at them, understand? What of the laboratory, sir? The research? We'll get what we can, leave what we can't. We can't afford to be killed or captured. Not now after all we've accomplished. Strucker advised. Dr. List stepped into the conversation. And the miracles? Strucker scoffed. They're not ready. They're the perfect weapon to distract him with. If we leave it to the men, he'll be here any minute. List concluded. You've seen the footage from the invasion, you know what he's capable of. Hydra's #1 thug ran his hand over his scalp once again. After an intense internal debate, he sighed. Fine, send them out. If they're overwhelmed, they're to retreat. They only need to hold him off. List smiled as he gave a smooth Hydra salute. Yes, sir. Naruto landed in a crouch, his head ducking low just in time to avoid a tanking unloading a shell directly at him. Shooting off towards it, ignoring the hefty explosion that went off a good distance behind him, Naruto expanded the chakra around his arms to increase the mass of his cloaked appendages, and heaved the massive war machine onto its side with a horrendous thud. Hearing another group of soldiers heading his way, Naruto extended his arm out with his hand shaped to look like a gun. Taking quick aim, bullets of pure wind zipped from his fingertip, passing through the 3 soldiers as though they were tissue paper. His senses telling him that a battalion of men were heading his way from the east and west, Naruto quickly clasped his hands together as he chanted in his head. Acid style, wisdom wolf decay. He then took a massive breath in before releasing a thick wave of pink corrosive acid into the large group of men coming from the west. The acid wafted past the trees and foliage, melting it as it did, quickly crawling towards the oblivious Hydra soldiers. Drowning out the screams of pain that came afterwards, Naruto continued on his path. You gonna finally let me out, brat? Kurama asked, clearly excited at the prospect. Naruto shook his head. Sorry, buddy, this needs a bit more finesse than you're capable of. I don't know whether to be insulted by that or not. The fox muttered. I thought you always took my thoughts towards your more destructive side as praise. The Jinchuriki wondered to himself. Kurama shrugged. Whatever, at least you're finally doing something destructive. I destroyed what was pretty much a small town of militants like a few days ago. Yeah, well, maybe if you'd let me out more I wouldn't feel the need to criticize your lack of bloodlust. Kurama observed. Maybe if you'd stop bitching about it, I'd consider it. His container shot back. I hate you so much right now. Hate isn't a strong enough word to describe your feelings for me. Naruto quipped. The beast made of chakra nodded in acceptance. You're right, how about abhor? Maybe loathe. Oh no, wait, despise. Yeah, that's good. Love you too, bud dash. His thought was cut off as Naruto was suddenly knocked off his feet by a sudden blow to the back of his head. Tumbling forward, he quickly made to stop himself as he landed on his feet after a few smooth rolls. Squaring himself, Naruto looked around for whatever managed to hit him, extending his senses outwards as he did. Suddenly, he heard what he could describe as someone's feet hitting dirt at an incredibly rapid pace. It wasn't a second later that he ducked his head under what would have been a nasty left hook as a blur of silver and blue blitzed past him. The blur coming to a sudden stop, Naruto blinked at the man that looked to be around his age. Sharing a similar build as himself if only a bit bulkier, his brown hair was swept back from the speed he'd been going, silver streaks freckled along his hairline. The man raised a curious eyebrow. You saw that coming? Wow! He said with general surprise. Naruto recognized his Sokovian accent. You're that man, right? Another voice came from behind them, this one feminine. Of course he is, Pietro. Just look at him. Keeping his stance on the now named Pietro, Naruto partially turned his attention towards the newcomer. Like the human blur, she was around his age, standing just under his chin with long brown hair decorated with scarlet-red highlights. Her hands positioned out in front of her, Naruto raised an eyebrow as a strange red energy slowly enveloped them, her eyes glowing a matching shade. Pietro scoffed. I told you not to call me that when we're working, Scarlet. The woman shook her head as she kept her eyes on the blonde. I'm not calling you Quicksilver, so you can just forget it. Her eyes shifted over to Pietro to give a quick glare of warning. And don't call me that. The blur raised his hands up in a placating manner. Fine, I just thought you'd like a cool codename like mine. I'm sorry. Naruto interrupted. I don't mean to cut into whatever this is, but who are guys exactly? Who we are doesn't matter. The woman answered, the energy around her hands flaring. All that matters is that we stop you. Oh, I get it. Naruto nodded slowly, his knees bending in preparation. You're with Hydra then? Pietro shook his head. We're with whoever points us where we need to go. Naruto glared at that answer but decided not to push it further. Instead, he quickly stomped his foot on the grass bellow, a column of earth rising up from the ground and throwing the woman into the air. "Wanda!" yelled Pietro, only to get a fist to the face as Naruto blurred into his vision. Stumbling back, he grunted, "Damn, you're fast." As he said this, his fist shot out like a bullet into Naruto's guard. The blonde ninja could admit to himself that Pietro was fast. His speed was comparable to Rock Lee or Gai Sensei. But even then, it wasn't fast enough for Naruto to lose track of him. He could see him just fine, it was just making sure he was quick enough to dodge the bone-shattering strike. Sidestepping the punch, Naruto let Pietro swing past him, pressing his hand into the blur's back and shoving him forward. Off balance, Pietro was sent tumbling into the dirt. Coming to a stop, he was refused any reprieve as the Jinchuriki grabbed Pietro by his shirt and threw him into a nearby tree, knocking the wind out of him. The sound of energy being projected caught Naruto's attention, allowing him to see Wanda shoot up into the air using her strange ability. Landing right next to him, she threw her hands in his direction and weaved them upward. Feeling something grab a hold of his ankle, Naruto cried out in shock as he was thrown into the tree line, crashing through 2 trees before coming to a stop on the third. Wanda's red energy grabbed a hold of his throat, causing him to choke out in shock as he was pulled up into the air, hanging limply as Wanda ran up to her brother's side. Choking as the energy's hold grew tighter, Naruto quickly exuded Kurama's chakra, breaking the hold. Falling to his knees, he coughed as he attempted to catch his breath. "Damn, she's strong," Kurama observed. Naruto chuckled. "Yeah, didn't see that one coming at all." Kurama nodded. "The other kid's fast too, but you can deal with that as long as you stick to any of the cloaks. She's a bit trickier though." He wasn't able to answer, as another grappling of energy wrapped around his arms and legs, keeping him still as a silver blur came rushing in, pummeling him in the face before coming back with a shot to the kidney. Each hit cracked bone, blood spurting from Naruto's mouth as he pushed out his own energy once again to break the hold. Catching the third punch, Naruto glared at the shocked Pietro as he drove his fist into his stomach, doubling the man over as he gasped for air. Grabbing him by the throat, Naruto let out his frustration with a large battle cry, lifting Pietro up into the air before slamming him down with enough force to crack the ground. His small victory was cut off by yet another wave of energy rushing into him, sending him flying from the duo of Hydra compatriots. Landing on his feet, Naruto shot off towards Wanda, a Rasengan in hand as he went in for the finisher. Wanda somehow seemed to expect a counter-attack, as a thick wall of energy quickly came up in front of her just as he was on top of her. Slamming his signature attack into the shield, Naruto blinked in shock as the wall of energy actually managed to fight off the ball of spinning chakra. The pressure building up from within, the Rasengan burst in an explosion of chakra, sending the two flying back. Bouncing off the ground harshly, he tumbled to a rough stop. Grunting as he got up, Naruto dusted the tree bark off his shoulders and hair. His eyes landing on the downed Wanda, he slowly made his way to her side. Kneeling next to her, he reached over to check her wounds, only for her energy-clad hand to shoot out and grab onto his head. In that moment, Naruto felt himself get sucked into his mindscape against his will, gasping as consciousness left him. "Where am I?" Naruto blinked as he realized he was in Kurama's seal. Looking over, to see a very confused Wanda standing next to him. Huffing, Naruto answered, "We're in my mindscape." Jumping at his voice, Wanda quickly threw her hands up in what he assumed was her go-to stance. Realizing nothing was happening, she blinked as she shook her hands as though she expected them to be faulty. "You can't use your powers here, intruder. This is my world after all." Startled, Wanda jumped again, her eyes landing on the giant 9-tailed fox sitting within a cell that accommodated his massive state. What? What the hell are you?" Kurama smirked. "I am Kurama, the 9-tailed fox. My tails cause natural disasters, my roar can destroy entire cities, and my mere presence is a challenge to the gods themselves. I am the harbinger of hatred, death, and despair. Most hate me, all fear me. So, don't even think about challenging me, intruder. I will not hesitate to obliterate you and everything you love." As Wanda stared up at Kurama with a mixture of fear and wonder, Naruto laughed. "I think that's the best speech you've given yet, Kurama." Said tailed beast looked down at his partner. Of course, after all, the best kind of boast is when it's the truth. Wanda went back and forth between the two, blinking rapidly as she tried to comprehend what was happening. Finally, she landed on Naruto. What the hell are you?" she repeated. "I'm just a guy," Naruto said with a shrug. What exactly did you do to me? I assumed you did this. Wanda admitted as she looked at Naruto in suspicion. My abilities, they've never let me do this before. Well, I'm gonna guess that you were trying to do some kind of mind thing to me, Naruto said. Wanda didn't answer, instead continuing to glare at him. Well, if that's the case, I've run into a lady who fucked me up mentally before. After that, me and the big guy over there set up a safeguard. Safeguard? Wanda couldn't help but ask. Naruto nodded. Anyone that tries to brain rape me gets sent here to chat with us. Wanda breathed in and out as she began to calm herself. So, I can't leave until you let me, she concluded. Yup. My brother won't let you keep me here for long, Wanda threatened. Guessing he was the super fast guy he was fighting, Naruto said. This whole conversation is moving at a speed way faster than outside. By the time we're done, it'll have only been a few seconds out there. That's how this seal works. Wanda cursed to herself silently. Pulling from deep within herself, she dug as deep as she could into the confines of the energy gifted upon her. Naruto raised an eyebrow as the woman closed her eyes in concentration, then gasped in shock as flecks of red energy began to leak from her hands and eyes. Feeling a familiarity with the strange energy, a realization suddenly dawned on Kurama. Naruto, that energy, it's cosmic dash. Everything around Wanda instantly faded away, the dreary backdrop of the sewer-like cage disappearing. Feeling as though she was in a free fall, Wanda opened her eyes to see the ground rushing up towards her. When her feet finally reached it, she came to a quiet halt. The sounds of birds chirping and children laughing immediately caught her ear, the woman looking over to see what looked like a bunch of kids meeting up with their parents after school. Feeling a presence next to her, she turned her head to see a young boy sitting on a lone swing set, his body positioned in the wrong way so that he could look over at the other children. Stop it! The boy muttered. Wanda blinked. What? Looking around, she asked. Where is this? Stop it! The boy repeated himself. Getting a better look, Wanda realized that the boy was a younger version of Naruto, around 5 or 6 if she were to guess. A look of anguish was on his face as he stared over at the children and their parents. Closing his eyes, he muttered, Please stop! I don't dash! His eyes swinging open in a rage, he screamed. I said stop! Feeling a sudden shift in the air, Wanda used her energy to try and calm the boy down before the realm fell apart. In doing this, a sudden flood of partial memories came pouring into her mind. A man with a scar across his nose leaning over a scared Naruto, blood flowing from his back. A pretty girl in a pink dress talking about protecting what's precious. A boy with a bowl-styled haircut being attacked by a wall of sand, the mobile grains wrapping around his arm and leg before crushing it to pulp. A raven-haired boy shoving his lightning-covered fist into Naruto's chest. An older Naruto talking angrily to a crippled man with long red hair about vengeance. An even older Naruto kneeling over what looked like a giant mass gravestone, crying as he etched another name into it. But as quickly as they came, they were gone, and just like that the ground left Wanda's feet once again, sending her into another free fall. Once again, the ground came rushing upwards, this time much, much faster. Bracing herself, she closed her eyes as she waited for the inevitable impact. Only it never came. Her eyes creaking open slowly, she sighed when she was back in the cage. Naruto, huffing from having his mind tampered with, within Kurama's seal no less, glared at the woman. What? Who? How did you do that? I don't dash those powers, Naruto interrupted. You're using cosmic energy. It's diluted, but when you use enough of it, it's pretty obvious. Where did you get them from? Your powers. Why would I tell you? Wanda demanded immediately. Huffing in desperation, she asked. What was all that? My past. Wanda looked at Naruto in shock. That was real. You lived through all that? Naruto paused. How much did you see? I saw enough, I think. She mumbled. How did you do it? Do what? Naruto wondered. I saw you talking to the man who killed your teacher, and you forgave him. How can you forgive someone who did something like that to you? Wanda demanded. The ninja rolled his shoulders and thought. I didn't see the point in continuing such a stupid cycle. If I killed him, the people of his village would have wanted to kill me in turn. And if they'd somehow succeeded, my friends would have wanted to kill them, and so on and so on. Catharsis doesn't come from the end of a blade, but at the beginning of an olive branch. Wanda shook her head. You make it sound like it's easy. It's not. Not when nearly everything is taken away from you, and the person responsible gets off just because they claim to have had a change of heart. That kind of person doesn't really learn from their mistakes. His victims aren't given retribution, so you have to take that retribution into your own hands then, am I right? Naruto asked, shaking his head. There's no such thing as retribution. Nothing can replace what's taken from you, ever. The woman narrowed her eyes. I will never forgive Tony Stark. Naruto's eyes softened. You asked me how I forgave him, earlier? Wanda kept quiet, allowing him to continue out of curiosity. I never forgave him. He took away my master and destroyed my village. When I finally met him, it took everything in me not to kill him. Naruto frowned as he said, but I recognized that all I was doing was feeding the thing I hated, that I wasn't following my master's teachings. I didn't forgive him. I simply replaced my hate for him with something else. What's that? Understanding. Naruto answered. Wanda scoffed. And if that's not enough? Naruto shrugged. Sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it's best to try and move on rather than let someone else's life consume yours. You don't have to listen to me, I'm just an asshole who hates the concept of revenge. It's destroyed so many people's lives, a lot of them people I love. Looking to Wanda, he asked, what do you expect to get out of it? Wanda, at first so sure, caught herself hesitating. Before long, she was speechless as she tried to think of a valid answer. Finally, she said, all I want is for it to feel like it wasn't for nothing. It's always for nothing. Naruto said softly. Walking up to her, he slowly rested a hand on her shoulder. I think it's time we left. Wanda swayed back as consciousness finally returned to her, having to catch herself so as to not fall onto her back. Looking around, she saw her brother getting up as he glared over her shoulder. Looking up, she saw Naruto, who had gotten up and was dusting up his pant legs. The man was looking back at Pietro, a stern look on his face. I'm done fighting you two. Naruto called out calmly. Get you sister and leave. Pietro growled, bending his body in before he dashed forward at an impossible pace in an attempt to tackle the man of fire. Naruto easily sidestepped him, the blur shooting past him with an audible whoosh. As Pietro came to a stop and made to charge again, Wanda yelled sharply. Pietro, enough. Stopping, he looked at his sister in shock. Why? But Wanda, we dash. I'm done fighting him. She declared. Let's just go. What about the base? We have to dash. We don't have to do anything for them anymore. Wanda said. We got what we wanted from them, let's go. Pietro struggled with this, cursing to himself before saying, okay. Dashing to her side, he picked her up bridal style. Where to? Anywhere but here. Wanda answered. Giving Naruto a parting glance, she said, Goodbye, Naruto Uzumaki. Her brother raised an eyebrow. How do you know his name? I'll tell you later, she said, though her attention was still on the frowning blonde. Okay. Pietro mumbled before sprinting away, the blue and red blur gone as grass and dirt burst from the launch zone. Well, that was annoying. Naruto, his gaze stuck where Pietro and Wanda had been standing, muttered aloud. They weren't all that bad. Kurama scoffed in his seal. You mean she wasn't all that bad? Come on, Kurama, let's go. Strucker looked over the screen, frustration wrinkling his features as he slammed his hands down on the table next to him. The ungrateful rats. He cursed, throwing his glare over to List. I told you we shouldn't send them out. The first sign of adversity, and they flee. List sighed to himself. I figured their resolve was stronger than that. He admitted. I never expected them to run from a challenge given their new gifts. It doesn't matter, Dash, you're right. It doesn't. Everyone in the run jumped in absolute shock, looking over to the corner of the room to find Naruto, his cloak deactivated as he lounged along the wall nonchalantly. Giving a lazy single-finger salute, he blurted out a simple, Sup. Blinking rapidly as he tried to calm his nerves, Strucker stuttered. How did you get in here? Naruto chuckled. I swept through your men like the plague, and you want to know how I snuck into a room? You need to get your priorities straight, man. List, practically shaking, took a step back. What do you want? Loki's scepter. Naruto answered plainly. Strucker swallowed the lump in his throat. We don't dash. The man gagged as his throat was put into a vice grip by Naruto's hand. The last shinobi lifted Strucker up off the ground, glaring up at him as he growled. You don't even know what you have. Give it to me before you accidentally mess with something you have zero understanding of. We understand enough, List insisted. With the scepter's artificial intelligence, we can push the advancement of humankind forward by decades, if not centuries. We've managed to scratch the surface of this intelligence, if given more time. Enough! Naruto shouted impatiently. Taking several calming breaths, he glared at the doctor. If by scratch the surface you mean passing on the scepter's energy onto people, onto human experiments, then I don't want to hear it. If you can't understand the reason for making miracles happen, then List was cut off by a bullet made of wind driving into his skull. Dropping with a sickening thud, everyone looked over from the former doctor to the blonde-haired warrior. His hand was extended outward, his hand forming a handgun. Naruto reined his glare in on Strucker. Where's the scepter? In the laboratory. The Hydra agent choked out. Down in the laboratory, I'll take you. Dropping him down, Naruto looked around at the room, everyone shocked into silence. Giving a strangely sincere smile, he said, Now don't any of you guys go anywhere. They all gave quick nods of confirmation. All of them knew the kind of extreme consequences that lay in wait should they disobey. Following Strucker over to a seemingly normal wall, Naruto raised an eyebrow as the man pressed his hands up against it, the wall caving in slightly before swinging open. Slowly, the two walked down the long set of stairs. As they eventually reached the bottom, Naruto raised a surprised eyebrow at the sight before him. How the hell did you get a Chidori Leviathan? Scratch that, how'd you manage to get it and stuff it down here? Hovering over them was the massive corpse of a Leviathan, the whale-like Chitauri warship strung up above them. Below it, the lab station was filled with several stations filled with incomplete robotic limbs and mechanics. Walking over to the nearest table, Naruto picked up a metallic head, its blue eyes glowing in the dimly lit room. We built this section of the fort over the creature. The Baron wheezed out, his throat very much bruised. We've been using its armor as a resource. Setting the head down, Naruto looked the room over. Hearing a subtle humming sound coming from the corner of the room, he finally located the scepter, the weapon being contained in force field, electricity arcing around the field at random intervals. Reaching his hand out, Naruto used magnet release to attract the scepter to him. Giggling with the field for a moment, it finally flew towards him with a sudden thwang. Gripping the scepter at the staff, Naruto grinned as he looked at the large jewel situated at the base of the blade. The intelligence you found, do you want to know where it came from? Naruto asked. Strucker looked at the man curiously. You know of its origin? Looking the scepter over, Naruto muttered. This scepter was given to Loki of Asgard by a man I doubt you've ever heard of. To Loki, it was a sign of trust. For the man, it was a sign of doubt. The man knew that without the scepter, Loki would most assuredly fail his mission to dominate the earth. In the end he failed anyway, and 2 infinity stones flew out of his reach and into the hands of Earth. Into my hands. Infinity stones? Strucker wondered. His eyes now focused on the jewel that held the Mind Stone at bay. This jewel is meant to hide the power of what it holds, the power of the Mind Stone. That's the intelligence you found, though only a small margin of it, I'd say. Jesus. The Hydra agent breathed, sweating at the thought of what he had. He simply couldn't believe he'd held an object of such power without knowing it. The things he could have done. Naruto gripped the jewel and yanked it apart from the scepter. In a puff of smoke, the jewel was gone. Grinning at his victory, Naruto thought. Now all I gotta do is seal it with the rest. You can do that anytime. Kurama muttered. You're running late to that meeting, remember? Naruto blinked. Oh shit. Quickly creating a shadow clone, the blonde rubbed the back of his head. There, that should cover me for a bit. I should go drop the stone off at Stark Tower real quick though. I promised Tony I'd let him take a look at it. I can't believe you're letting that monkey look at something like a fucking infinity stone. Kurama growled in annoyance. A smart monkey is still a monkey. Give him a stick and he's more likely to use it to poke himself in the eye. Aw, come on, Kurama. I said he could look at it for a week to see what made him tick. What's the worst he could do? The blonde rationalized nonchalantly. Tony may be a monkey to you, but to me he's as smart as they come. Him and Bruce should be able to get something useful from it. It's a win-win. Kurama scoffed. And how exactly is this a win-win? Simple. They get to look at something cool from space, and I get them off my back about me having 2 now 3 objects of mass destruction in my pocket. Naruto explained. I know I don't have to, but I need allies, and allies usually tend to like to share. As this conversation went on in Naruto's head, Strucker slowly began to creep backwards away from the seemingly distracted blonde. As he finally crept near the stairs, he came to a halt as his back pressed into someone behind him. Slowly looking back, he tried to pull off a charming smile. "You wouldn't happen to want to let me go now?" Naruto smiled back. No, not really." Sighing in defeat, Strucker turned around and held his hands out in front of him. "Fine." Raising an eyebrow, Naruto asked, "Oh, you thought I was going to arrest you?" He chuckled. "No. That's not how this works. But you're an Avenger. You don't just kill Dash. I'm not an Avenger." Naruto interrupted. "And you lost my sympathy after I found out what you guys were doing here. There are a lot of things on the list of shitty things I'll forgive, but human experimentation? No, I don't let that slide." Before Strucker could argue his case, the scepter was driven into his chest. Gasping in shock and pain, he nearly collapsed onto his knees but was held up as Naruto gripped his collar. Glaring down, Naruto continued, "You and everyone that helped you in this place died the second I found out your address." Twisting the blade to give the final blow, Naruto watched with satisfaction as the man of Hydra gurgled his last breath. Dropping him down, Naruto said aloud, "Hey Kurama, how'd you like to stretch your legs out a bit?" "God damn it, kid, you really know how to spoil me," his partner answered with excitement. Present time location, Washington, D.C. Naruto blinked as he did a quick switcheroo with his clone. Looking around the waiting room, he asked, "What did I miss?" Tony and Steve looked at the blonde in confusion. "What?" Stark asked, quickly noticing that the ninja wasn't wearing the same clothes he'd been wearing before. Coughing to clear his throat, Naruto answered, "I'm the real one. I'm, you know, me." Looking around the room, Steve leaned in. "How did you do that, exactly?" "If I answer that, can you tell me how you get the shield to always come back to you after you bounce it around?" Naruto challenged. Steve gave the blonde a momentary stare before leaning back. "Fair enough." Tony decided to answer the blonde's original question. "We've been sitting around waiting to be called in for the last 30 minutes. So, to answer your question, nothing. You've missed nothing." Looking down at his clothes, Naruto realized that he'd been wearing the same clothes he'd been wearing during his raid. Going through his clone's memories, he quickly transformed his clothes into what he'd been wearing. This proved to be just in time, as the door opened to reveal Secretary Ross coming through. Walking with him was a man of a similar age, though shorter in stature and pudgier in appearance. His hair was slicked back and well-groomed, a thick beard wrapped around his face. The three got up, Steve and Tony shaking the two's hands. Rogers was the one who spoke. "Secretary Ross, Director Norris," he greeted. Ross nodded along. "Captain Rogers." CIA Director Norris took Tony's hand. "It's a pleasure to meet you. Sorry for the wait." Ross apologized sincerely, his eyes on Naruto the entire time. "We ran into a bit of a mishap." "Mishap?" Steve asked. Ross still had his eyes on Naruto. "There was a blimp in Sokovia." When the blonde didn't blink under his stare, he turned to the other two with a smile. "Well, follow me." The three followed after them, being led into a large conference room. Sitting at the large table in the middle of the room were two others. Ross decided to do the introducing. "For those of you not familiar, this is Director of National Security, Douglas Chapman." He motioned to the man sitting on the left. A lanky man of African complexion, he gave a small smile as he stood up and shook the three's hands. Looking over to the woman sitting a few seats to Chapman's right, Ross finished his introductions. "And this is Agent Jessica Drew of the CIA. I'm sure Captain Rogers and Mr. Uzumaki are familiar with her." Jessica remained seated, though she gave Rogers and Naruto a customary nod of acknowledgement. The three heroes took a seat across from the other four, with Naruto situated in the middle with Tony to his left and Steve his right. Ross cleared his throat as he began. "Before we get started, I just figured we'd explain why we were forced to make you wait." "You mean the little mishap?" Tony interpreted. Leaning back in his seat, he said, "Yeah, I think we all figured out what you were referring to." "Who you were referring to?" Steve added. Deciding to take the lead, he continued, "Who being Naruto, what being his raid on a Hydra base in Sokovia?" Chapman cut in. "Were you aware of his intention to raid said Hydra base?" "Obviously not," Tony answered. "Otherwise we would have helped him out. More than likely that's why he didn't tell us. He told us after he showed up," Steve clarified. We had no clue it had happened until then. Did you have any clue that he planned to wipe it off the face of the earth with whatever it is he did? Director Norris asked. Seeing their confusion, he directed their attention towards the television situated on the sidewall. Turning it on, he flipped to CNN. On the screen, a reporter could be seen standing within what looked like a war zone. Already 30 minutes ago. From eyewitness reports and recordings made, many have come to the conclusion that the Avenger known as Maelstrom is responsible for the attack here in Novigrad. Why or who he is fighting is still unclear, but it is clear that he was attacking an old castle within Novigrad hillside. That castle is now gone after it was attacked by Maelstrom after taking the form of a giant nine-tailed fox. Please stand by for more information. We are getting new reports and bits of information with every minute that goes by. The TV cut out, everyone's attention back on Norris as he spoke. So what exactly were you after, Mr. Uzumaki? It was Tony who answered. We already told you, he was raiding a Hydra base. I'm sorry, Tony. Ross interrupted as he motioned to Naruto. But I'd like Mr. Uzumaki to answer. If we want your opinion, we'll ask for it. With that, everyone's attention turned to the still silent blonde. Sighing loudly, Naruto closed his eyes and thought. I raided the base because they had something I wanted. Originally, all I wanted was to get in and go. But then I realized that they'd been using the thing I wanted to experiment on people. So, I blew them straight to hell. Chapman leaned in. What were you looking for, specifically? Loki's scepter. That got the other side of the table's attention. You recovered the scepter? Norris asked. Yes. And where is the weapon now? Chapman asked. With Dr. Banner over at Stark Tower. Naruto answered nonchalantly. Ross laughed to himself. You gave a weapon of mass destruction to another weapon of mass destruction? Naruto shrugged. Well, I took out the mass part of the destruction, so it should be fine. This confused everyone in the room but the blonde. What? Steve asked. I took out the thing that made it dangerous. He explained simply. And what did you do with the thing? Ross asked. I gave it to Dr. Banner? Raising his hands up when he saw the incredulous he received, he said. Without something to channel it, it's just a really smart rock. All anyone can do is study it to see how it ticks. Tony asked me to let him have a look. Seeing everyone turning their disbelief onto Tony, he sighed. Thanks, kid. You're welcome. Naruto answered cheerfully. Well, I have perfect confidence in Dr. Banner's ability to not use the weapon as a weapon of mass destruction, Tony said in an attempt at an appeasing manner. Besides, if the kid's right, then there's not much he or I could do with it anyway other than a quick once-over. So, loosen your buttholes, please. Ross sighed in agitation. What is the thing that powers it? I'll feel a lot better about the situation if you'd at least explain why it's not an issue for an unstable scientist to have it. Tony cut in. Technically speaking, Banner isn't unstable. It's the other guy we all have to worry about. Anyone that willingly tests gamma radiation on themselves should be considered unstable. Norris argued. But authorizing and supervising said test is totally acceptable. Got it. Stark fired back quickly, looking at the former general turned politician. Ross decided to end that line of conversation. Enough. Now, Uzumaki, if you please. Shifting uncomfortably as in his seat, Naruto said. Look, why don't you just get down to brass tacks already and just get to why you brought me here? Fine. Ross consented, though he clearly didn't want to. But first, I think Director Chapman had some questions for you. Chapman opened the binder that was set out in front of him. Clearing his throat as he straightened his tie, he began to read. Mr. Uzumaki, this is not an official inquiry or deposition. You are not being accused of or charged with any crimes you may or may not have committed in the 7 years you've been a resident of this planet. 4. Naruto corrected. I was gone for 3 years. In the 4 years you've been a resident of this planet. We simply wish to iron out the timeline of your time here, ask several questions we've gathered, and allow a dialogue between us that hopefully leads to a plentiful relationship for both sides. Is that understandable? Naruto looked to Tony and Steve. When he got a nod from them, he gave one of his own. I understand. Good, Chapman said pleasantly. Now, my first question for you is a little out of order, but I have to admit that I'm very curious of your answer. Okay. The man nodded. The alien who you fought a month ago, the one who called itself Desak, when he arrived he addressed you by a different name. He called you Celestial. What does that mean? Oh, that? Well, Celestial is the name of a race of ancient intergalactic beings that are capable of manipulating the galaxy itself. So, essentially, space gods. Naruto answered in a blank, easygoing tone. The room grew quiet at that. Eventually, Chapman finally spoke again. I see. Everyone seemed to look at Naruto in a new light, though if that were good or bad remained to be seen. Norris decided to speak for the still stunned Chapman. Let's get to the ironing out of your history here. Right. What do you want to know, exactly? The ninja asked. The timeline of your arrival here is still unclear. Chapman began, finally gathering himself. Shield records show that you landed on Earth at 2:23 p.m. on April 3, 2008 in Kathmandu, Nepal. You were recovered by Kathmandu paramedics at 3:09 p.m. and then immediately taken into emergency care. The doctors who worked on you claimed that your body seemed to be healing itself at an impossible rate. The next day, SHIELD agents were sent to investigate the phenomenon but failed to recover you, the hospital reporting that you'd gone missing the night before. Then, suddenly, you appear in Tønsberg, Norway on July 14th. That's over 3 months of undocumented time, Mr. Uzumaki. Where were you in that time? Ross asked. I was taken in by a monk and her disciples. They helped heal me, taught me your languages and history, and showed me where I needed to go to get home. Naruto answered carefully. And where are these monks now? Chapman asked. Naruto shrugged. Don't know. Norris looked at the man skeptically. You haven't kept in contact with them in the 7-4 years you've been here? I find that hard to believe. Norris finished. Naruto turned his attention onto the man, driving a hard stare his way. I don't really care what you believe. They don't matter. They don't need to be disturbed any more than they have. That's all there is to it. Let's move on. Chapman insisted in an attempt to defuse the situation. Looking back at his binder, he said, After you met up and allied yourself with S.H.I.E.L.D., it's fairly easy to follow where you were and what you were doing. One specific moment happened on December 11, 2011. On this date, you decided to intervene in the revolution going on in Sankaria, engaging with revolutionists stationed in Anian and one of their bases situated a mile outside the city. You also assassinated 7 members of their government, all of whom were responsible for the revolution in the first place. Then, after all of that, you attacked an AIM facility where you killed several of the people working there. In all, your death toll for that day amounted to 239. Is there a question in there? Tony asked. Were you aware that the United States had invested interests in the Sankarian Revolution? Specifically, the revolutionary side? Ross asked. Naruto shook his head. I was not. Were you aware that by thwarting the revolutionists, you upturned several years' worth of military planning? That you upset a carefully laid power grab that would have given us an unprecedented strategic advantage in that area? Ross continued. So, why did you feel the need to circumvent the United States government? The blonde sat and thought for a moment, taking in Ross's rapid-fire questions before answering. I wasn't ruining your plans. Naruto said softly. I wasn't making a move against you, or Sankaria, or the revolutionists. I wasn't making a power grab or moving pieces around a chessboard. I wasn't thwarting. I was saving a little boy from a situation I put him in. Everyone I killed, everyone I hurt, that happened because they either got in my way, or were responsible for their own misery. If I stepped on your toes, I didn't mean to. I was just putting people down that deserved to sit in the dirt. Ross looked Naruto over. But to do so and not even ask for clearance, or explain yourself. Naruto laughed. As everyone looked at him with either confusion or indignation, he laughed some more. You seem to think I have an obligation to explain myself to you. You seem to think I work for you, or that you're above me. I can tell just from how you talk to me. And it's not that you're arrogant. No, you honest to sage believe that you deserve to have some kind of command over me. Naruto began, looking at each of the men sitting across from him as he spoke. You rule over a chunk of this planet. Your flag doesn't cover every edge of the map, no matter how much you wish or think it does. If your borders really did branch out over the entire planet like Xander or Hala, then I'd understand why you think you could tell me what to do. I'd actually be more receptive to the idea. After all, this planet took me in my time of need and helped me get on my feet. I'll always love Earth because of that. But you don't have any kind of pull on me. I didn't land in your country and get adopted by some farmers from Kansas. I landed in Asia and I got help from a super spy agency whose allegiance was to the entire planet, not a single country. My only connection to your country is that most of my friends are from here. That's it. Everyone looked at him in stunned silence. Ross was the first to get over the blonde's monologue. Perhaps we should move on, he said. Right, Naruto said. Let's move on to the real reason I'm here. Realizing he had the floor, the blonde continued. Tony's told me that you don't want me to step on your toes anymore, and you don't want me to step on yours. Yes, Director Norris admitted. I think, going off what you've said today, you'd rather keep to yourself but still be allowed relative freedom from government control, am I correct? Yes, Naruto answered. Sadly, Ross started. That kind of freedom isn't something that can happen. You are an alien here. A guest who is running his welcome thin. You kill indiscriminately, and if not that you beat them within an inch of their life, you destroy with your wanton abilities and accept zero responsibility, and use our country like a rest stop whenever you want to take a break from breaking the countless laws we've let slide due to your relationship with both S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Avengers. However, S.H.I.E.L.D. has disbanded, and you've declined any allegiance to the Avengers on numerous occasions. That leaves you in the wind. That's simply not something we can allow. Chapman decided to intervene. You have to understand our perspective. You are simply not someone we can allow to roam freely with zero supervision. Your abilities make you perfectly inclined to decimate everything that makes this world run. Political power, military, economy. You can't ask us not to trust you when all that keeps you from running the world is your mood. Now hold on a second. Steve argued. Naruto would never set out to destroy America. How can you promise that? Ross demanded, eyeing the three men across from him. How can any of you promise us that? No one can predict the future. Right now, he's a neutral party. 2-3 years from now we could be on opposite sides. And I don't like our odds. That's why we called this meeting. To try and set ground rules in place. To try and reach a mutual understanding. An agreement. And how exactly do you propose we reach an understanding? Naruto asked. Ross gave Naruto a careful look. I understand you're forming a team. Why? Naruto sat there, his arms crossed over his chest. Finally, he looked to Chapman as he said, You were probably going to ask about the 4 years I was gone, right? The older man blinked. Yes, I was. The reason I left was because during the incident in New York, I managed to talk to the guy responsible. Naruto admitted. Chapman nodded in understanding. Loki no. Naruto corrected. The man who sent Loki. His name is Thanos. Short version is that his mission in life is to find 6 ancient objects called the Infinity Stones. The reason he had Loki invade Earth is because the Tesseract being studied by S.H.I.E.L.D. was in fact one of the Infinity Stones, the Space Stone to be exact. I used that stone to get back to my home. After I did that, I traveled around space looking for clues about the other stones. I managed to find one more before coming back here to fight Tesseract. It was in space that I learned that Loki's scepter held an Infinity Stone. Which is the reason for the raid. Norris deduced. The shinobi nodded. I now have 3 of the 6. I'm forming a team to help me find and protect the others from Thanos. What happens if Thanos were to get all 6 of these stones? Chapman asked. I don't know, that's what scares me. He could literally do anything with them. Naruto responded quietly. Where are you keeping the other stones? Chapman wondered. They're in a safe place. No one can get to them but me. Ross scoffed. How can you be sure that trust me? It's literally impossible, or anyone but me to get to them. I'm the last of my people, there isn't anyone else that would know how. Naruto clarified. The Secretary of State raised an eyebrow. You're the last of your kind? Yes. This seemed to ease Ross's mind a little bit, knowing there weren't any more people like that out there. I see. Coughing into his hand, Tony asked. So, why do you care that Naruto's forming a team? Ross straightened at that. I have a proposition. You need official representation from Earth to make your life here a little smoother. If I know we have someone we trust with you, then I won't feel inclined to continuously hound you on your many mishaps. They'll be inclined to inform me of them as they're happening, which gives us time to react, along with giving us a direct line to you. So you're a spy. Naruto simplified. If you'd like to put it that way, then yes. Ross yielded. Steve raised a curious eyebrow. It's a little odd you'd be so forward about wanting to plant a spy in Naruto's ranks. Ross gave a placating smile. I've been warned not to try and put one over on this man several times. I pride myself in being able to learn from mine or others' mistakes. Who did you have in mind? Steve asked. It was then that Agent Drew stood up from her seat. That would be me, Captain. I'm sure you're aware of her abilities, Captain Rogers. You too, Mr. Uzumaki. Norris said, getting a nod from Steve and Naruto. Yeah, well, I'm not. Tony said. Mind filling me in? Agent Jessica Drew has been gifted with several abilities due to complications with her birth. Norris explained. Enhanced strength, speed, reflexes, agility and senses. She also highly resistant to poison, toxins and radiation. Her hands and feet are capable of secreting a fluid that allows her to cling to solid surfaces. Along with all of that, her body produces an incredible amount of bioenergy, allowing to discharge it from her body. On top of all of these incredible gifts, she is an adept hand-to-hand combatant and weapons expert, as most S.H.I.E.L.D. agents are. She is our top field agent. Throughout the entire rundown of her abilities, Naruto and Jessica stared each other down. When the room went quiet, the ninja realized they were waiting on him to reply. Eyeing her again, he asked, "What do you think of all this?" Jessica straightened her posture as she answered, "I think you need a buffer between you and the government of this country. I can act as your buffer. Fine, I accept," Naruto declared. Wait, Naruto Steve was interrupted as Naruto said, "But here are my rules. I can come and go from this planet as much as I please. I don't have to tell you where I'm going or for how long. Second, Infinity Watch is my team. We don't work for you, or Earth, or the Avengers. Third, if I ever catch a whiff of you trying to use me or my team to advance you and your county's goals, we're done. Fourth, she can tell you what I'm doing, she can tell me if you don't approve, and she can report to you if I do something she or you don't like. Hell, she can try and arrest me if she thinks she can, but she's a part of my team now. She doesn't do missions for you, she only does them for me. And by her, I mean only her. I don't want my team to be the new hangout for supped-up government agents. And fifth, anyone I choose to be on my team is under my protection. That means people like Owen Reese and Jennifer Walters aren't yours to watch or worry about. They're mine." "They've joined your team?" Chapman asked, writing their names down. That question made Naruto falter for a moment as he said, "Well, I'm scouting them. It's a process. Are there any more rules you'd like to make?" Ross asked, everyone in the room seeing his frustration barely held in. "None that I can think of right now, but I'm sure I'll think of something," the ninja answered. "We'll have to go over this more, but we'll get back to you when we've come to an agreement. And when we've come up with more rules of our own," Ross informed. "We'll send Agent Drew your way when we do." Naruto looked around as everyone around him seemed to relax, the thick air that hung in the room lifting slightly as they all got up from their chairs. "Is that it?" he wondered. Tony patted him on the back. "Yup, good job, kid, you got a little less angry than I thought you would." "Thanks. Shall I call for him?" Sitting over a vast cliff side, an elderly voice broke out past the sounds of the vicious waves crashing against the cliff wall. "Yes, it is time. I cannot postpone it any longer, I think." The younger, feminine voice spoke back softly. "I know that this is difficult for you. I have made many difficult decisions when it comes to my children. You'd think I wouldn't find it so hard to make another. Especially considering the circumstances." The elder spoke, his voice strong yet deeply broken. "This must be done, my king. I know, bring him to me. At once. So, explain to me why you're willingly allowing a spy onto your team?" Naruto sighed at Clint's question, leaning up against a table as the two waited on Bruce and Tony's arrival. Steve had decided to stay behind in DC. Though he was curious when Tony asked him to say hello to Agent Carter for him, he decided not to ask after seeing Steve's bashful reaction. Folding his arms across his chest, he answered, "Because I needed to make the compromise. It was either agree to let her onto my team knowingly and control the situation or tell them to fuck off knowing they'd do something drastic in retaliation. I know I can handle any of those situations, but the last one is the more annoying of the two. But she's gonna be recording your entire team's strengths and weaknesses, how to use and beat them in you. She's gonna be writing down every law you break and every person you fuck over. She'll have a laundry list on you a mile wide." Clint reasoned. "Doesn't that bother you?" The shinobi laughed. "Don't worry, I'll handle all of that. If you say so." The archer relented. Hey, I was told to ask you if you wanted to come over for dinner. The missus is making that thing you like. Naruto's entire attention was on Clint. Ramen? What? No, meatloaf. How old are you? Clint demanded. I like meatloaf, the blonde asked. She made it for you the last time you were over. You wouldn't shut up about how amazing it was. You literally made her weak. Clint tried to remind him. Look, as long as you give a repeat performance, I don't give a shit if you remember or not. Laughing, Naruto complied. Sure, I'll come over. We can carpool to your place. You have a car? Barton asked. Didn't I tell you about my spaceship? Your what? My spaceship. She's called the Kushina. Naruto detailed. Clint stared at Naruto for several seconds before replying. Oh. Okay. As the conversation ended there, Tony and Bruce walked into the room. Tony had taken off his jacket and tie, the first few buttons of his shirt unbuttoned to offer some breathing room. Bruce, sporting a lab jacket, walked up to the two, giving Clint a smile and Naruto a nod. What's this I hear about a spaceship? Bruce asked curiously. That I have one. Naruto elaborated. I can take you both out for a spin if you want. Definitely gonna have to put a bookmark on that one, Tony said enthusiastically. I think we're gonna be busy looking at this gem for the next couple weeks. First, they're called Infinity Stones. Second, we agreed to 1 week. Naruto corrected with a light glare. And I'm gonna have a clone on standby to come and pick it up and drop it off with the others, so don't think about trying to bargain for any spare time. Right, my bad. Tony waved off, looking the blonde over. Where is the stone anyway? Right over here. Banner answered, motioning towards the table in the lab. On the table sat the scepter and the jewel, the glowing rock situated onto a strange-looking stand. Wow! Tony gasped. Motioning towards the jewel, Naruto said, This is the Mind Stone. Its power lies in the mind. It is literal intelligence. In its diluted state within the scepter's jewel, it can control the mind and make an average Joe as smart as you or Bruce, he explained to Tony. If I were to take it out of the jewel, if you were to touch it, it would drive you insane from the overload. You'd probably learn the meaning of the universe, but you'd be rendered catatonic. That's why I left the stone inside, so you can analyze it without having to waste time coming up with a way to contain it. This really is incredible, Bruce observed, walking closer to the table and leaning in to give it a more scrutinizing look. How will you be able to contain it when you take it out? Naruto smiled at Banner as he stared at the Mind Stone, his mind racing 1,000,000 miles a minute. The energy you see me use lets me hold and partially control the stones. I've managed to learn how to hold off their power, but other than that my control of them is pretty shitty. That's one of the reasons I don't like to use them. Makes sense. Bruce mumbled, most of his attention on the Mind Stone now. I can't believe you have 2 more of these just lying around somewhere, admitted Clint as he observed the stone from a distance. Out of the 3 Avengers present, he had the most experience with it, and it was safe to say he didn't want to interact with it any more than he had to. Deciding to ignore Clint's comment, Naruto created a shadow clone before handing it off. Looking back at Tony, he asked, What are you planning to do with this again? I just want to see what makes it tick. Tony admitted freely. If what you say about it is true, then it could prove to be a boon for several projects I've got in storage, one in particular coming to mind. Nothing nefarious, I hope, Naruto said half-heartedly. Tony made an offended face. Look at who you're talking to. Have I ever done anything nefarious? Underhanded? Sure. Questionable? All the time. But nefarious? Come on. Alright kid, let's go, Clint said, getting bored with the conversation. Right. Naruto answered, putting his hands in his pockets as he followed after the archer. You guys going out on a date? Tony teased. Don't stay out too late, you two. Why don't you go join your science bro and looking at the rock? Clint shouted back in annoyance. Bruce looked up from observing the stone. Do people actually call us that? He asked Tony, causing Naruto to laugh as he and Clint left the room. Wow. Just wow. Clint, sitting in the passenger seat of the Kushina, looked on in wonder as they blitzed through the air at lightning speed. In order to ignore any air traffic, they'd flown up into the mesosphere and had cruised around for a bit before they flew off to Clint's homestead in Maine. Naruto smirked. Yeah, she's something else. Looking over the distant planet below, Clint asked. And you got her from a space pirate? Pretty much, the blonde admitted. Awesome. Clint looked at him. Can I fly her? Naruto's laugh had no humor in it. No chance in hell. Oh, come on. I let you fly the Quinjet the first time I took you out on it. Return the favor. Barton pleaded. Let me my ass. You forced me to fly it as some stupid kind of test. Naruto shot back. Stop being such a brat. I will, when you stop being such an asshole. Clint relented in annoyance. Just take us to the farm, damn it. I'm hungry. The shinobi grumbled but relented, smirking knowing he'd won the argument. Finally reaching their destination, Naruto rested the ship down in the open field in front of the homestead. As they descended, Naruto quickly noticed a Quinjet that was parked several yards away. Who else is here? Naruto wondered, looking to Clint. Said Archer scratched at his chin. Well, Clint, who's here? Clint's answer had to wait, as the two saw his children burst out of the house and run towards the ship. Opening the back for him, Naruto allowed Clint to run out and greet his kids with a bear hug. As Naruto followed after him, he smiled as the happy kids gripped their father like a lifeline. Eventually, they noticed Naruto behind their dad, walking from inside the ship. Letting go of their father, they run up to the blonde shinobi. The oldest at 11 years old, Cooper, ran up and reached out for a high five. Lila, who was at the cute age of 6, wrapped her arms around his left leg in a tight hug. Uncle Naruto! Lila cried out happily as she looked up at him with stars in her eyes. You're back! How long have you been back? Cooper asked. Where did you go? Demanded Lila. I heard you went into space. Did you go to Mars or something? Did you make friends with any Martians? I bet you did, but Cooper says they aren't real. That's because they aren't. Cooper argued. Lila glared at her brother in protest. Are too. Are not dash. Naruto decided to cut this off before it got any further. I've been back for a couple months actually. And no, I did not go to Mars or talk to any Martians. I did however go to space and met some really cool aliens. Lila had stars in her eyes. Whoa, really? No way. Cooper denied. Yes way. The shinobi reassured. This one guy was made of ice, another looked like a walking tree, and one was pretty much a talking raccoon. While Lila oh'd and awed, Cooper looked at the older blonde skeptically. You're making that up, right? Would I make something like that up? Naruto asked. You made up the story about you fighting a knight over a rock, so yeah? Cooper said. Naruto lowered his head in defeat. No respect. Why don't you guys give Naruto a little bit of breathing room? I'm sure there's plenty of time for him to try and convince you that he actually met a talking raccoon. Called out a voice from the direction of the house. Looking over, Naruto saw Laura Barton exit from the homestead, walking down the porch carefully as she cradled her bulging stomach. Clint was quickly by her side, giving his wife a hug as he helped her down the last step. There actually was a talking raccoon, Naruto argued as the kids left his side. Laura laughed as she looked at him challengingly. And how exactly did it move its mouth in a way that made it capable of forming proper sentences? This left Naruto hanging, unable to explain how Rocket could actually talk. As he tried to form an argument, another set of footsteps came from the door, getting his attention. And, much to his shock, Natasha peered out from the door frame looking at Laura. The mashed potatoes are ready. Oh, thanks, Nat, Laura answered. Doing her best to be subtle, she shifted her gaze back and forth between Naruto and Natasha. Naruto, who had frozen for a split second, awkwardly said, Hey, Natasha. It was then that Natasha seemed to notice Naruto's presence at the bottom of the porch stairs. Blinking several times, astounded, she then gave an accusatory look at Laura then Clint. Surprisingly, it was Clint who backed down as he averted his gaze. Laura simply gave an encouraging smile. Finally, Natasha said, Hey, Naruto. Are you here for dinner too? Yeah, was the only thing Naruto could think to say. The awkward air was cut off as Lila grabbed Naruto by the hand. Uncle Naruto, I want you to sit with me, she demanded innocently. Thankful for the excuse to turn his attention to anything else, Naruto smiled down at the little girl as she pulled him up into the house. Okay, I'm coming. As he was pulled in, something flying close by caught his attention. Looking over, he raised an eyebrow as he saw a raven land on the porch railing. It was larger than what you would call average, with a single glowing green eye staring into his very soul. He wasn't able to think on it too much longer, as he was pulled fully into the house. The sounds of clinking silverware echoed through the kitchen as the six ate their dinner. On one side sat Naruto and Natasha, with Lila in between them, and Clint, Laura, and Cooper sitting respectively across from them. In between bites, Laura looked to Naruto. "So, how is it?" Naruto's smile was wide as he swallowed. "I love it." Laura smiled back, clearly pleased that her guest was enjoying her cooking. Unbeknownst to his wife, Clint gave Naruto a subtle but appreciative nod and thumbs up. "Well," Laura began, "I can't take all the credit." Lila looked up from her plate at the shinobi. "Yeah, Auntie Natty helped Mommy make it." "Really?" Naruto asked with a raised brow. The attention now on Natasha, the woman looked up mid-bite. Realizing she was expected to answer, she swallowed before saying, "I didn't help out that much. Since when do you cook?" Clint asked skeptically, only to get an elbow jab from his wife. "I don't. She helped cut up the potatoes, she mashed them too," Lila informed. Natasha continued to try and downplay her involvement. "You cut more than I did. She was very helpful," Laura persisted, though why only she seemed to know. Naruto could only smile in amusement as Natasha was bombarded with how helpful she was. "I didn't realize you'd become such a good cook," Naruto said. "You know I can't cook worth a damn," Natasha reminded. "Remember the homemade ramen I tried to make for you?" The blonde laughed. Yeah, I remember. You totally butchered it. I don't think I'd ever heard you apologize for something so much for so long. It didn't help that you kept laughing at me," the Avengers assassin challenged. "And then the cake I tried to make for you on your birthday, remember that?" He quickly remembered that birthday. "Yeah, how did you burn the icing again?" "I thought you put it on and then cook," Natasha answered. "Careful, Naruto," Kurama's voice warned calmly. His partner's booming voice brought Naruto back to reality, noticing that Laura was smiling at their conversation as she pretended to focus on her food. Laughing with restraint, Naruto said, "Yeah, those were good times." The mood around the room suddenly got a little tense, everyone entering an almost awkward silence as they began to dig into their meals once again. It was Cooper who finally spoke. "So Naruto, are you gonna be an Avenger now that you're back?" No. No, I'm not," Naruto answered lamely. "Why?" Lila asked. "Well," Naruto said, trying to think of an edited reason for why he refused to join the Avengers. "Well, when I was a kid, I had this one friend who called himself an Avenger. He was about your age," he said, looking to Lila. "When someone took his family away from him. He was your age." He said this looking to Cooper. "When he abandoned our home to avenge the thing he lost. He did a lot of bad things to do that, all because he was an Avenger. So, I guess the idea of calling myself the thing that nearly destroyed my friend makes me feel bad." "Oh," Lila said quietly. "What happened to your friend?" Naruto could feel Natasha freeze up at that question. "He passed away," Naruto said gently. "Did he ever become your friend again?" Cooper asked. Smiling gently, Naruto's eyes hazed in sadness. "Yeah, I'd like to think so." Seeing that her children had finished their plates, Laura cut through the tension. "Why don't you guys take your dishes to the sink and wash up?" Though they didn't look very pleased, they quickly complied with their mother and got up to do as she asked. "They'd both gotten so big," Naruto said as they left the room. "Well, it's been nearly 3 years since you last saw them," Laura said. "They really missed you while you were gone, Lila especially. You're her favorite superhero, you know? Action figures and everything. I'm sorry I didn't come by sooner." Naruto apologized. "I should have visited at least once. You were busy, I know," Laura reassured. "What's important is that you're here now." Clint finally decided to speak now that he'd finished his meal. "Is it really true that you met a talking raccoon?" Standing on the porch, Naruto leaned up against the railing as he watched Clint play catch with Cooper and Lila, throwing the baseball with supreme accuracy each and every time. In return, both kids returned the ball with surprising accuracy of their own, with Clint almost never having to move his glove to retrieve the ball. "Did he teach them how to do that, or are they just as freaky as their dad?" Naruto asked. "A bit of both," Natasha answered, sitting on the porch steps as she watched the sun set over the tree line. "Though I'd say Lila is the more natural of the two. If they don't watch out, they're gonna have a Lady Hawkeye on their hands." Naruto looked over at Natasha, observing her for several moments. Eventually, he slowly got off the railing and trekked over to her, calmly taking a seat next to her. He only allowed them to sit in silence for a few seconds before saying, "You can pretend to sit here and stare at that sunset for as long as you want, but you and I both know that's not what you're really looking at." Natasha didn't look away from the tree line. "What are you talking about?" Motioning his head towards the kids, the blonde said, "I see how you look at them. Naruto dash, I think anyone that knows you knows that that's what you want." He interrupted. The spy finally turned to head to look at him. "And if you know me, you know I can't have it, even if I did. Then let me heal you. Naruto dash, I never offered it to you before because I knew you needed to ask me. If I had asked, you'd have said no, no matter how much you actually wanted me to. So, I backed off and gave you space." Naruto reasoned quietly. Natasha fought for the right words to say. "Naruto, I can't, why would you do that for me? If it's pity or some dash." Naruto shook his head as he said, "I'm not doing it out of pity or anything stupid like that. I'm doing it because of that look I was talking about. You try and hide it, but after everything we've been through I can read you like a book, and it's because of everything that I know you'll never ask me, because you don't think you deserve it. That you don't deserve to have that happiness." Wiping her eyes, she said, "I really don't deserve it. Not after everything that happened. Not just with you, but everything. I'm a monster. I've seen monsters, Natasha. I've seen the worst of the worst. And despite myself, I can't think of you on the same level as them. You're like 3 tiers below that. At least." Naruto, giving her a joking smile at the last part. Natasha couldn't help but laugh. The two sat there for a moment, enjoying each other's company, something they both missed. "I thought you said you were done with me?" Natasha finally asked. "Yeah, I did. I guess you could call it a timeout if you want," Naruto said with a shrug. "And how many of these timeouts do I get?" she asked, her voice taking on a strange tone of hope. He shrugged again. "I'll burn that bridge when I get there." They entered another silence, before Natasha gave a sigh. "Just let me think about it." At that, the door behind them opened. "Hey Naruto, are you sure? Oh, sorry. Am I interrupting something?" Laura asked, looking down at the two as they sat together on the steps. Naruto got up, dusting off his pant legs as he said, "Whatcha need?" Laura looked back and forth between the two before asking, "Are you sure you don't want to stay the night? We have an extra guest room, so it really isn't a bother." "No, thank you, I'm good. I'm actually gonna be heading out," Naruto said, rubbing the back of his head. "Oh, okay," Laura said, disappointed. Walking up to him, she held her arms out for a hug goodbye. "Well, be sure to come again, you're welcome anytime." Bending down into the hug, Naruto said, "How can I not come back after that awesome dinner?" Leaning in, he whispered, "Maybe next time we'll watch The Parent Trap and you can pick up some tips?" As Naruto leaned back, Laura gave him a parting kiss on the cheek, patting the spot she'd peck. She said with a knowing smile, "We'll be sure to do that then." Walking down the porch steps, Naruto called out, "Hey kids, I'm heading out." "Ah," Lila moaned, running up to the blonde and clutching his leg in a death grip. "You can't leave now. You only just got here." Naruto rubbed her head as he said softly, "I'll be back, I promise." "You promise?" Lila asked, her voice muffled in Naruto's pant leg. "Promise of a lifetime," Naruto answered, slowly peeling her off of him. Leaning down, he gave her one last hug. Getting up, he gave Cooper a fist bump. "I'll be seeing you later, kid. Could you show me how to throw those knives?" Cooper asked hopefully. Before he could answer, he saw Laura give him the look only a wrathful mother could. His eyes on Laura, he said in a loud, awkward tone, "No kid, knives are dangerous. Wait until you're older." When Laura looked away, satisfied that Naruto had handled the situation, the ninja gave the kid a subtle okay gesture with a heavy wink. Eventually, Naruto was able to walk up to his ship alone, giving one last wave goodbye as everyone seemed to decide to go inside. Turning to his ship, he said, "You can come out now." The sound of flapping wings echoed before the one-eyed raven landed at Naruto's feet. Kneeling into a catcher's stance, he asked, "Well, what's your name?" The raven tilted its head back and forth as it observed the blonde that towered over it. Finally, it opened its beak to respond. "Munin." "Well, Munin, what do you want with me? You've been following me since Wakanda, right?" Naruto asked. "I was asked to observe you by my master," Munin informed the blonde. "He wished for me observe until the time he wanted to speak to you." And it's safe to assume that that time is now. Naruto guessed. Munin twitched its head in a nod. That's correct. Naruto stood up straight as he asked. Who's your master then? My master goes by many names, Lord of the Aesir, Spear Shaker, Wise One, the Raven King. But most know him as the King of Asgard and Protector of the Nine Realms. Munin recited. My master, my king, is Odin Borson. Well, shit. Naruto said in surprise. What does the King of Asgard want with me? Our king has a quest for you. Naruto nearly jumped as a presence suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Standing next to him, draped in a simple long-sleeved green gown, was Amora, the enchantress. She seemed to have toned down her appearance in recent years, as she seemed to be trying desperately to come off as average as possible. As far as Naruto was concerned, she'd failed in the attempt, because even with then she was still an unnaturally natural beauty. Then again, she was a goddess. Enchantress. Naruto greeted with clear caution. Don't let that bitch get too close, brat. I don't think I can deal with another visitor today. My patience is running thin as it is. Kurama warned with a growl. I haven't gone by that name for a long time. Amora informed. Not after that day. Narrowing his eyes at the woman, he said, What do you want? As I said, our king has a quest for you. Amora repeated. It's of the utmost importance. And why in Sage's name would I go anywhere with you? The warrior demanded. The enchantress sighed. I know that our past is tricky, but I wouldn't be here if what my king requests of you wasn't important. If I had it my way, I'd have never shown my face to you again. But I owe my king everything. So I come before you, knowing that the only thing keeping you from wiping me off the face of the planet is your patience alone. Isn't that enough of a sign that I'm being sincere? Not really. Kurama argued, not that she could hear him. Naruto, thinking it over for several moments, eventually asked, What's the request? My king wishes to tell you that himself. Amora answered. But what I can tell you is that you are the only who can do what my king needs done. Why can't he do it? Naruto demanded. Isn't he supposed to be this all-powerful god or something? Amora frowned. He has been stripped of his power. He is weak and frail. He's in no shape to do it. And what about Thor? I can't say. I'll leave my king to explain why. Amora tried to reason. Taking a thoughtful breath in, Naruto released it as he said, Fine, let's go. Amora slowly walked up to the blonde, Munin flying up and landing on her shoulder. As she reached up to grab his arm, Naruto grabbed her forearm firmly. If this is a trick, I won't be happy. Understand? He asked, his voice dangerously low. Wincing at the vice-like grip around her arm, she nodded. Yes, I understand. Letting her go, Naruto quickly sealed the kushina into its seal before saying, Let's go. Right. Amora said weakly as she grabbed his arm. A strange, otherworldly energy suddenly enveloped them, a flash of green lighting up the field. And then, in an instant, they were gone. Waves crashed savagely against the towering cliff side, slowly but surely eroding it away with each and every mighty slap of water. Staring out into the horizon, an aged man sat on a cluster of boulders with a look of pure contemplation on his wrinkled face. Smiling, he said, Welcome, Naruto Uzumaki. Looking around, Naruto eyed the beautiful field with actual awe. He said, And where am I? It was Amora who answered as she walked to sit beside her king. The Lofoten Islands. I took him here after I found him in New York a year ago. Why was he in New York? Naruto asked. Amora looked at her king, sadness in her eyes. Loki exiled him, banishing him into a Manhattan retirement home through the use of spells I taught him. I managed to find him by chance and break the spells, but he's refused to leave his exile. So I took him here. It's the closest thing to home I could find. Odin, who seemed to have been ignoring the conversation going on about him, said wistfully, My son, Loki, is a troubled boy. In his 1,500 years of life, he has lived in the shadow of others. But now, through my exile, I can give him the chance to be out of that shadow, no matter how short that may come to be. I consider it my last gift to him. Naruto looked Odin over for a moment. He seemed frail. He was wearing a loose set of beige clothes that hid his body, but his face was all he needed to see to know that he wasn't well. You're dying, aren't you? The elderly king chuckled. Aren't we all? How long do you have? The Uzumaki asked slowly. 2 years, 7 months, 2 days. Odin said without hesitation. Okay. Naruto began, scratching his scalp. Is that like a guess or? Odin laughed softly. I suppose you could call it that. Though I can see many things, there are many things that are cloudy to me. You, for instance. Or the future I see. Either way, I find that coming date very worrisome. Continuing to scratch the back of his head, Naruto said. Yeah, I would too. It isn't my death that I find worrisome. No, something else will happen on that day. What I see is foggy, mysterious, but in a way obvious. Something my death is a catalyst to. Odin claimed. My death is the movement of a single cog among many, all working down the clock to life itself. That is what I see. Death. What does your death cause exactly? Naruto asked, disturbed by the king's words. With my death, my power fades. My power is the only thing holding back the executioner of Asgard. She will bring Asgard and its people to their knees with her power. She will slaughter anyone who gets in her way before she is stopped, if she can be stopped at all. Odin declared. With my death, my eldest child will be released onto the world. You want me to fight your daughter when you die? Naruto asked in slight disbelief. Why don't you just ask Thor to do it? This seems like a family issue. Thor is mighty. Odin admitted. But Hela, she is godly. In my prime I could barely defeat her. It was my weakness that allowed her to live, and it was my hubris that allowed me to assume I could hold her off forever. In my youth I assumed I would live eternally. And it wasn't until I grew too old, too weak, that I realized I'd been a fool. And now this new generation must live with my foolishness. Naruto sighed, unable to resist finding the parallels between Odin and the third Hokage. Both had allowed monsters to live and died regretting it. What did she do? Your daughter, Hela, she had to have done something pretty terrible to make you feel this way about your own flesh and blood. It was Amora who answered. She committed an unspeakable act against Asgard. Unspeakable, huh? Naruto muttered. So what, you expect me to be on call until you finally pass on, so I can fight this super strong she-god, wherever it is she pops up? No. We will send you into hell as soon as you can, and you will find and destroy her within her prison. Amora corrected. And what the hell do I get out of any of this? Naruto demanded, eyes squinted shut in scrutiny. It seems to me like you assume I'll do it out the kindness of my heart, or something. Your reward for completing Odin's quest is the location of the Reality Stone. Amora answered. That caught Naruto off guard. You know where it's at? Odin stood up from his seat, slowly walking up to much younger man. Thor had managed to procure the stone right before my exile. I didn't like the thought of having two Infinity Stones so close to each other, especially considering our previous security blunders. In secret, I ordered Thor and his posy to find someone who was capable of hiding the Reality Stone. While he managed to find someone, I believe I've found someone better. He said as he motioned to Naruto. My sight has faded much in my old age. Your past and future are as blurry to me as the rest. But the bits I can make out, I know I'm making the right choice in choosing you to take on the quest. As Odin rested a hand on Naruto's shoulder, the blonde looked into the Allfather's eye. In it, he could see the weight of his burden, that weight almost crushing him in his old age. Seeing that, he sighed. Why not relieve some of that weight off? Okay. I'll do it. Chapter 25. I shall be released. Location. Alfheim. The sound of rolling thunder echoed high, lightning splitting up into the air in a fundamental breaking of the law of nature. Birds broke out into a flock of panic, swooping outwards from the white-petaled trees and flying into the violet-colored sky. Another blast of lightning scorched upwards, splitting apart any clouds who dared to get in its way. As the thunder that followed subsided, a voice could be heard screaming. To the left! Thor, god of thunder, looked to his left, only to see no one coming. Not your left, my left! Screamed the irritated voice several yards away. Grunting in annoyance, Thor turned his attention towards that direction, spinning the hammer Mjolnir, channeled lightning before using his hammer to direct it into the cluster of dark elves dashing towards him and his companion. While the lightning blasted the dark elves, Thor said, Maybe be specific then. His companion, a light elf with long bleached blonde hair and a face made for royalty, scoffed as he pointed his blasters towards a duo of dark elves. Oh, shut up. As Thor threw his lightning-encased hammer towards the surviving elves, he said, You know, for an elf named Honeypot, you're really sour in the personality department. Honeyshot. The elf corrected as he blasted another group of dark elves. It's Ivory Hunshot. Same difference. Thor muttered as he summoned Mjolnir back to him. You know the stories I've heard about you never included just how agitating you are, Ivory said, ducking beneath a sword swing. And the stories I have heard about you, oh wait, there are no stories. The god of thunder shot back, thrusting his hammer into the cranium of an unlucky dark elf, decapitating him on impact. As the dark elf's numbers began to dwindle further and further, Ivory said to himself, I can't believe the All-Mother forced me to help a buffoon like you. Why she fears you and the Raven King, I'll never know. Thor, hearing that, smirked as he saw the dark elves had gathered together and were charging towards him. Channeling lightning into Mjolnir, he spun the hammer in his hand at an incredible pace, the hammer thrumming mightily before swinging up, his body being lifted off the ground at an incredible speed. Eventually, several hundred feet above the trees they'd been fighting in, he came to a stop. Entering his freefall, he positioned the Mjolnir in front of him as he dropped down on the group of dark elves. Ivory watched in awe as Thor landed, the ground exploding as though he were a meteor made of pure lightning and thunder, breaking the Alfheimian earth with ease. Stepping out of the crater he'd created, Thor still had his smirk in place as he looked to Ivory. That's why. The elf could only sigh, accepting the show of force as he looked around for any survivors. These terrorists were foolish to think they could hold themselves off here. Thor hefted his hammer onto his shoulder as he said, They lost any kind of leadership with Malekith. I doubt they sincerely thought they would succeed. Right. Ivory sighed. I wonder if there are any more of these dark elves out there. I'd hate to think I participated in exterminating a race of people. Likewise. Thor admitted somberly. Well, let's return to the palace. Wow, this place sure is beautiful. For a battleground anyway. Thor and Ivory both took battle positions as the voice suddenly spoke up behind them. Thor, seeing who it was, relaxed his swinging arm. Naruto? Naruto, scratching the back of his head, laughed as he said, How's it going, Thor? Ivory looked back and forth between the two before finally landing on Thor. You know this person? Yes, this is Naruto Uzumaki. He is a warrior from space, or something. The prince introduced. He is mighty, I assure you. Raising an eyebrow as Ivory looked Naruto up and down as he asked, How did you get here? You're not of the 9 realms, so you can't have access to the Bifrost. Oh that? Yeah, I tagged Thor with a Horatian tag. Naruto explained flippantly. A what dash? Naruto's playful manner fell away as he looked at Thor with slight trepidation. Thor, how long have you been away from Earth? Thor raised an eyebrow. It's been a year or so, why do you ask, friend? Well, I don't really know how to tell you this. All I know is that I wouldn't be a friend to you if I didn't. Naruto muttered softly, his eyes squinted shut in thought. Tell me what? Thor demanded. Is Earth in danger? No, well, sorta, maybe. Naruto stuttered. It's about your father. My father? Thor asked, surprised. The shinobi nodded slowly. They implied they didn't want me to tell you, but like I said, I don't like the idea. The Prince of Asgard's face scrunched up in worry. What is going on with my father? It's a long story. A fire crackled loudly with a small stone-laden hut, warming the small home and its occupants. Said occupants sat at a small table, enjoying the warm homeliness their fire gave off. Odin, leaning in his chair, waited patiently as Amora finally finished preparing their tea. Amora sighed as she poured tea into Odin's cup. You know he's going to tell your son, sooner or later. He's not the kind of man to lie to his friends, ordered to or not. Odin nodded as he took a sip of Amora's tea. I am aware of his beliefs. And if he tells my son the truth, then that is simply a byproduct of my own actions. I only have myself to blame. The enchantress sighed as she said, Still, I feel like it could have been avoided. Laughing, Odin muttered past his cup, My son would have found out eventually. Despite how he acts, despite his brutish fighting style, he is an intelligent warrior. He'll demand to fight her. Amora predicted confidently. Oh, I'm sure he will. Odin laughed wholeheartedly. Right, my boy. Amora jumped at the sudden presence of Thor and Naruto. The god of thunder did not look pleased. So it is true. Nodding slowly, Odin said. Indeed. Before Amora could react, Thor was in Odin's face as he pulled at his father's collar. How could you lie? Lying all this time, all these years. When were you going to tell me? He demanded. Likely before I died. The Raven King answered truthfully, somberly. How could you? Thor began, but seemingly couldn't muster the question he needed to ask. Odin sighed as he placed his hands on his son's. I am not going to lie and say I did it for the greater good. I lied for me. It is as simple as that. The son released his father roughly. Tell me where she's imprisoned. Why? Odin asked slowly. What do you seek to achieve with that information? I am going to talk to my sister. Thor answered confidently. I'll decide what to do after I talk to her. She'll kill you, Amora answered. When Thor didn't seem to react to her statement, she decided to explain Hela's situation. She's being kept inside of Hel, a subworld within Niflheim. Inside of Hel is a realm known as Nastrand. Nastrand is a place designed to cut off its occupants from the outside world. No one can escape or enter without Odin's permission. And once you enter Nastrand, you might as well cease to exist. Thor didn't look at Amora as she explained Hela's prison, glaring at Odin the entire time. So, give me permission then. I can't do that, Odin said. I've already given Naruto the key. Only one can exist at a time, and only the holder can decide who goes. Fine then, Thor said as he made to leave. Come Naruto, we have a quest to complete. No. Thor stopped, glaring at his father. What do you mean no? I'm going. I will not send you off to Valhalla, Odin bellowed. Not you! Not like your mother! This is my mistake, and I refuse to pay it off with your blood. With a sudden jolt, Odin gasped in pain, clutching his chest as he retched forward. Thor and Amora were quickly at his side, with Amora doing her best to ease his pain with her magic. Thor, deep worry on his face, could only watch as his usually strong father's body fail in front of his eyes. His eyes landed on Amora, the woman running her magically covered hands over Odin's chest. Glaring down at her, Thor took a threatening step towards her. What are you doing? What have you done to my father? Before Thor could pry her off of Odin, he was stopped by a hand clasping onto his shoulder. Thor, stop! Naruto ordered firmly. Thor was immediately in Naruto's face. She's a witch. She could be bewitching him, weakening him. She's helping him, Thor. He's dying, Naruto said, his voice growing soft. The son of Odin took a step back in shock. What? He asked softly. It's true, Amora said, most of her attention on Odin. Loki's banishment hastened it, but he's been on limited time for decades now. Loki, Thor muttered, finding a chair as his legs seemed to lose their strength. I'm going to kill him, he muttered with rage. Closing his eyes, he tried to calm his building anger, lightning running along his hands. His eyes flew open when he felt a hand grasp onto his chest plate tightly. Odin, kneeling before his own son, wheezed. Please, Thor, please. Don't go to her. I can't let her do it again. Not like before. I barely survived it. And now with my life flittering away, I know I can't survive it if she took you too. Father. Thor breathed out. Seeing his father in such a state, his frown deepened. Okay. I won't. The Allfather's grip loosened. Good. Tell me everything. The God of Thunder demanded. Naruto sighed as he stood outside the hut, allowing Odin and Thor privacy. Sitting cross-legged on the rock Odin had been sitting on when they'd first met, the blonde looked up at the full moon that was sitting clearly in the night sky. So, when are we doing this? Kurama asked, closing his eyes, Naruto thought. As soon as Thor is done talking to Odin. So soon? The Biju asked. Naruto shrugged. I'd like to get this over with, then I can handle everything here. My clone can take care of anything that might pop up in the time I'm gone anyway. Kurama nodded from within the seal. Makes sense. I'd suggest doing it as quickly as possible. According to that witch, time moves way slower in hell. A few hours over there could be days here, get it? Yeah, I got it. Naruto thought with agitation. Well, you've never been known for understanding complex things like time displacement and the such, Kurama said smugly. I'd hate for you to come back and a month has gone by. Yeah, that would suck, admitted Naruto. But things should go smoothly, should. Then, after a moment, an idea struck the blonde. I'll be right back, Kurama, the blonde said smoothly as he focused his mind. Kurama blinked in confusion, but quickly realized what his partner was talking about. Oh, going to talk to Lady Death, huh? Her name is Freya. Naruto corrected before he was sucked into his mindscape, going directly into the corner of his seal where Freya was housed. Opening his eyes, Naruto found himself in front of Freya's campfire. Looking over, he smiled at the beautiful woman who sat directly next to him. "Hello, beloved," Freya said with a delicate smile. "Freya," the blonde said kindly, leaning back as he said, "So I'm sure you know what's happening." The embodiment of death nodded. "I have. I never expected you'd be taking on someone who's used my name in their campaign of power. It's a little ironic in a way. Any advice?" Naruto asked. "Her moniker is one deserved," Freya started. "It was given to her by the Light Elves of Alfheim, after she slaughtered and executed every single member of their royal family during the Asgardian invasion. Originally, she was the goddess of war. But her bloodlust led to her new title, the goddess of death. She was born and raised to be the ultimate weapon. That was her purpose. She is both the sharpest sword and sturdiest shield. She can kill anyone and killed by no one. She sounds tough," Naruto admitted. "She has no weaknesses?" "None. Your fight will be one of attrition," Freya advised. "Right," the blonde muttered thoughtfully. "So, I'll need a battle strategy. And we both know how bad you are at those," Freya said lightly. "I'd suggest sticking to your strong suit and work on the fly." Naruto rubbed the back of his head. "Probably. Meh, I'll think of something either way." "No," Freya said with surprising firmness. "You can't take this so carelessly. You need to approach this as seriously as you can, okay?" Seeing the worry on her face, Naruto smiled. "I'll be careful." Lady Death sighed, looking away from the blonde with a huff. "No, you won't." Chuckling, Naruto said, "It would be strange if you thought I would. You know me better than most, right?" "I do," Freya confirmed softly. "And I know that you're going to try and talk to her, to understand her and get her to understand you. You've done it before several times. Niji Hyuga, Gaara of the Sand, Nagato Uzumaki, Obito Uchiha. You saved these people from themselves. Your talk no jutsu, as your friends later called it." Laughing again, Naruto muttered, "I guess don't do that this time," Freya advised. "She isn't someone to change. She'll kill you if you give her a chance, understand?" This time, his laugh grew bigger. Getting up, he summoned a door to exit the mindscape. "You forget that my talk no jutsu doesn't ever really rely on my words, at first anyway. About 3/4 of it revolves around me beating them senseless. I leave the talking for when that's all I can muster. Why do you insist on making things more difficult than they have to be?" Freya persisted with a small scoff. Her face relaxing, she said, "I know that there's no convincing you otherwise, you fool." His smile growing bigger, Naruto stepped through the door towards consciousness. Opening his eyes, the blonde found Amora standing in front of him. "So, how are things inside?" Naruto asked. Amora smiled softly. "Good." Within the hut, Thor and Odin sat in silence. The only sound in the room was the crackling of the fire. Thor proved unable to stand the silence. "Make me stronger." Odin blinked. "What?" Thor, his face hard as stone, said, "You told me that I'm not strong enough." "Well then, father, make me strong enough. Show me how to be strong in the short time you have left." Staring at his son in shock, Odin eventually smiled. "On one condition." "Name it." Thor demanded confidently. "Leave Loki be. That is the condition. Until my death, Loki is to be left alone," Odin said firmly. The prince seemed to want to argue against his father, but stopped midway. Eventually, he could only nod in acceptance. "Agreed." Odin placed his hand firmly on Thor's shoulder. "I will make you realize the strength you never knew you had, my son." The door creaked open, Naruto peeking his head. His eyes squinted shut and a wide smile on his face, he said, "You guys good? 'Cause if it's okay, I'd like to get on with my quest now." Thor sighed. "Fine then. Father, send him to hell." Amora, who was behind Naruto, said, "I'll be in charge of that. I'll drop you off in hell, then you'll have to travel on foot to Nastrand. The key should guide you to your destination." Naruto looked down at his open palm where Odin had placed the key, a golden symbol Amora called a laser bejoder. Closing his fists, the blonde said, "This thing hurts like a bitch, by the way. The pain will relieve itself the closer you get to Nastrand," Amora informed. Nodding, a thought came to Naruto. "Why don't you just drop me off right in front of the place I need to go, Nostradamus, or whatever?" "Nastrand," the enchantress corrected. And sadly I can't. Hell is a strange place. I'll try and get you as close as possible, but there's no promises that it'll be right around the corner. Rubbing the back of his head, Naruto muttered, Okay, let's do this I guess. Odin stepped forward, resting his hand on Naruto's shoulder. All I can do is wish upon you the strength you will need. My daughter, she needs peace. She's never known it. So please help her get that. Naruto looked Odin in the eye as he nodded solemnly. Giving Thor a nod goodbye, he then watched as Amora opened a portal using her magic. Taking a deep breath, he stepped into what awaited on the other side. For the sage's sake, why is it so fucking cold? His arms wrapped around his torso, Naruto's entire body vibrated in an attempt to get warm. His teeth clattering, he continued his train of thought. I thought hell was supposed to be hot. Lakes of fire, pillars of lava, demon babies, the works. Not this bullshit. Demon babies? Kurama questioned from the seal. Shoo, shut up. Naruto demanded, holding himself tighter as his shivering got worse. As soon as he stepped through the portal, the frosted wind blasted him in the face. The wave of falling snow soon came after, along with Naruto noticing that he seemed to be in a dead forest, the black trees looking like they'd been burned a long time ago. Their black bodies and bony limbs stuck out like haunted figures against the pure white snow that surrounded them. Naruto couldn't tell what time it was, night or day, all he could see was white. He pushed forward, the pain from Odin's ki dimming slightly the further he walked. An idea suddenly came to Naruto, the blonde smirking in satisfaction as he summoned a small scroll from the seal situated on his wrist. Opening it, he quickly summoned out its contents. Pulling on the thick brown trench coat with fur lining the insides, he sighed in content at the warmth it gave him. Fitting the gloves to his hand and a red scarf around his neck, he quickly realized these added layers only helped a little, as he was already shivering again. You could have just activated one of the cloaks to block out the cold. That stopped Naruto in his tracks, his body freezing from the realization. Damn it! He cursed as he activated the base 9 Tails cloak. Kurama chuckled as he said, You're welcome, brat. Naruto had no idea how long he'd been walking for, his only solace being the continuous diminishing of pain coming from the ki. What was once a scorching burn was now an intensely throbbing pain. As he walked further and further into the dead forest, the trees started to dwindle down, leaving a cold field in its wake. The field seemed to go on and on. There didn't seem to be any kind of horizon. It was as the trees disappeared that mounds of snow took their place. Each step, each crunch of the snow, echoed along the cold hellscape. Suddenly, Naruto stopped in his tracks. Kurama looked up from within the seal, his ears twitching with interest. Naruto? Said Blonde remained quiet, only to then rear his head back before giving a mighty sneeze. Wiping his nose, he chuckled to himself. I had that sneeze in the back of my throat for like 2 minutes. The Biju rolled his eyes as he laid his head back down. Idiot! As Naruto took another step forward, the sound of shifting snow echoes around. Freezing, the blonde raised his arms in preparation as he thought. You hear that, partner? Kurama's ears twitched. Yeah. 6 o'clock. Naruto quickly ducked down, just in time to avoid a giant fist from plowing into the back of his head. Rolling forward, he turned around to get a good look at his attacker. The man was large, both in muscle and stature, his flesh frozen over and turned a decayed purple and blue. His glaring eyes shined an eerie blue, his teeth clenched together, as he growled like an animal. Dashing towards Naruto, the man raised his hands up over his head to deliver a punishing hammer fist. Raising one hand up, Naruto easily caught the fist. The enemy caught in his grip and his torso wide open. The shinobi quickly took advantage of the situation and shoved his fist into the man's abdomen. Dropping the now limp man to the snow beneath them, Naruto raised his hands up. The palm he'd used to block the attack and the knuckles of his punching hand were glazed in a thick ice. What the hell? Naruto asked aloud, only to jump to the side to avoid several projectiles. Quickly realizing they were arrows, he looked for their shooter. Quickly spotting another frozen man off in the distance, Naruto was quick to get into his space and deliver a devastating spin kick to his neck, snapping it in two. As he landed, his leg buckled. Looking down, Naruto was shocked to see the area he'd kicked with was frozen like his hands. Quickly, the blonde added some of Matatabi's signature flames to where the ice had collected around his limbs. The ice was quick to melt off. He was unable to celebrate this small victory, as the sound of shifting snow once again entered the area, only much more numbered. His eyes then widened in horror, as the mounds surrounding him suddenly began to shift and break away, revealing frozen men in their place. The snowfall must have covered them, Kurama observed. Naruto, who was busy swerving away from a surprisingly quick sword slice, thought. Do you think they only move and attack when people not from hell show up? Not very neighborly. The Biju shook his head. No, I don't think it's that. I think it's because you're alive. Alive? Naruto thought, a sudden realization hitting him. He couldn't feel them. These things, whatever they were walking dead men. Applying Matatabi's flames to his hands, Naruto quickly killed the zombie swordsman who'd been attacking him. Taking stock of the situation, Naruto noticed that these men weren't uniform. All of them differed from the other. All were warriors, all of which appeared to be from different time frames. Most prominently were various kinds of Viking-like warriors that Naruto eventually recognized to be Asgardians. But in between that were some light and dark elves, giants, dwarves. Hell, he recognized some Earth military uniforms in the crowd. He was completely surrounded by a never-ending wave of frozen zombies. Great! A frozen Nazi officer then suddenly broke from the crowd, charging towards him with a bayonet in hand. Naruto didn't let him get too close, quickly incinerating him mid-run. Not far behind him, the rest of them charged in. Naruto was quickly suffocated by the 360-degree charge, quickly activating his six-path sage mode to help keep him at a constant advantage. Knowing Matatabi's chakra was his best bet, Naruto quickly summoned an insane amount and pushed it out around him, blowing away any of the zombies that were too close for comfort. Now able to move freely, Naruto was quickly on the assault. His limbs encased in his trusty blue flames, Naruto was unencumbered enough to flail his arms and legs in precise strikes and attacks, doing his best to get only one-hit kills to hasten the fight. One after the other, after zombie Nazi, after zombie Asgardian, after zombie Mongolian, after zombie dentist. Strangely enough, Naruto continued his onslaught. Huge columns of azure flames scorched Hell's Earth, blasting and incinerating countless warrior zombies. Tremendous waves of cobalt inferno, bombacious bursts of sapphire explosions, and blazing walls of devouring hellfire kept the zombies at bay. And yet they still kept coming. For each he killed, it seemed like 5 more took their place. It was maddening. His breath growing heavy from slight fatigue but mainly annoyance, Naruto killed another squadron of Hell soldiers. This is ridiculous. Quickly avoiding a sneak attack, Naruto went on the move. Running and attacking at the same time, he attempted to cover some ground and fight at the same time. The quicker he got to Nastrand, the better. It was as he was running that he came head-to-head with an open circle the zombies seemed to be avoiding. And in the center of that circle stood a single hooded figure. His cloak appeared to be made entirely of darkness, his face hidden by the deep shadow of his hood. Now face to face with the figure, Naruto quickly realized that the zombies had stopped attacking. While his guard was still up, Naruto made sure to keep within the circle that was apparently out of bounds. His attention halved between the hooded figure and the countless zombies surrounding them. Naruto used this time to catch his breath. And then, the figure moved. Shifting his stance so he and Naruto were facing the same direction, his blue, partially frozen, hands then flew up and began to weave hand signs at a shocking speed. Before Naruto could react, the figure took a mighty heave before releasing their breath. That breath was a humongous bellow of fire, the fiery element almost instantly disintegrating anything in its path. This path made a wide hallway through the zombie crowd. A path now made, the figure began to walk through the wide path he'd made. Realizing Naruto was too busy staring after him in confusion and wonder, the figure motioned his head to follow him. Naruto, blinking rapidly, could only follow after the hooded figure stiffly. Walking through the path and exiting the crowd, the blonde stopped. Looking back at the crowd, he raised an eyebrow at the sight of the countless zombies facing the two of them, their blank faces glaring at them harshly. Turning sharply to the hooded figure, Naruto asked, "Who the fuck are you?" The figure shifted to partially face Naruto, a voice peeking out from beneath the hood. "I suppose it's been a long time since the last time we spoke." His eyes glaring, Naruto said, "You used fire ninjutsu. A powerful one. Who are you?" He insisted again. Pulling the hood down, the figure finally turned fully to the blonde. "I'm glad you don't think my skills have dwindled after all this time. It's good to see you again, Naruto." Naruto immediately recognized the man behind the hood. The man's long jet black hair flowed down his face smoothly, his pale complexion mixed in with the frozen purple and blue the rest of the hell zombies shared, and a single red cloth was wrapped tightly around his eyes. Itachi? Itachi smiled. Hello, Naruto. What? Naruto stuttered. How? What? Follow me, they won't be like that for much longer. Itachi said, referencing the zombies, continuing to walk in the direction they'd been going in. Itachi, who'd gone from a mild walk to a blitzing sprint, zipped along the frozen tundra. Naruto, now left behind, yelled after him. Hey, wait for me. With his 6-path Sage mode activated, it didn't take long for him to catch up. His eyes still looking ahead, Itachi said. What are you doing here, Naruto? I could ask you the same thing. Naruto shot back in disbelief. The Uchiha nodded. I suppose that is fair. It can wait until we get to my camp. Right. Naruto drawled out. Lead the way, I guess. Eventually, thanks to the speed they'd been going, the snowing field they'd been running through began to fade away, replaced by chunks of brick tiles littered in a way that may have once resembled a road. The field ended at a vast cliffside, a crumbled stone bridge leading to the other side of the cliff. And on the other side? A massive, practically destroyed tower that sat on a small yet lean island. Itachi's run came to a calm walk, the Uchiha leading Naruto into the tower, a small campfire burning in the center of the bottom floor. His shoes creaking against the old wood that made up the floor, Naruto raised an eyebrow at Itachi's camp. We will be safe in here, this is an Asgardian outpost long abandoned. Itachi said in his usually stoic tone. Naruto, standing next to the flames, said, Itachi, what the hell? The Uchiha sighed before saying, I am sorry for being so discreet, but the Hellwalkers will only stay away for so long before their impatience overrides their instincts. It was for the best we get away as soon as possible. What? What do you mean? Is that why they didn't attack us? Their instincts told them not to? Naruto asked, confusion plaguing his face. Itachi nodded slowly. In a way. I am special. I have been touched by a being they fear, and I suppose that touch has left a residue they know to avoid. But it only lasts so long. Eventually, they attack out of pure impatience. Naruto plopped down on the ground next to the fire, scratching his head frantically in thought. You need to explain everything. Now. Please. Taking a seat next to him, Itachi said. I'm here because this is a part of my punishment. Punishment? Naruto asked. Yes. The Uchiha said with a small smile. The punishment for my crimes. But you. Naruto started. But everything you did for the greater good. You did what you thought was right. You were a hero. When I died, nothing happened. The deceased Uchiha interrupted. It was like I had been asleep, woken up by Kabuto's jutsu. And when that jutsu finally ended, I was presented to a judge. She told me that for my sacrifice, I could go to any afterlife I wished. I had the pick of any dimension or reality, whichever I wanted was mine to have. So I chose here. A cold hell where I was to walk alone for all eternity. And when I got here, I was forced to go through another judgment. This time, they weighed my sins and decided on what to take from me accordingly. Itachi paused, lifting his hand up to pull up the cloth around his eyes. Naruto could clearly see that his eye sockets were empty. The judge deemed my eyes were enough to even the scale. So now here I am. A blind man walking alone through hell. A fitting punishment. As Itachi put the cloth back into place, Naruto could only shake his head. Itachi, why? It is what I deserve. I could not bear facing the people I hurt. My comrades, my family. Sasuke. I could not dream of seeing them again. That would have been selfish of me. I think I had been selfish enough in the time I was alive. Naruto could only sit there, listening to the fire crackle. Tell me why you are here. Did you die? No. Naruto eventually answered, raising an eyebrow when Itachi seemed to relax. I've been sent here on a quest from a guy named Odin. I'm looking for a place called Nastrand. Nastrand? Itachi asked. Yeah, you know it? Naruto asked hopefully. Itachi nodded. Yes, it's not far from here. Awesome, Naruto said with a smile. Itachi seemed to be struggling with his next line of questioning, his forehead scrunched up in thought. Naruto, why are you all the way here, performing a quest for a god that is not of our pantheon? Your being here is confusing. It was then that Naruto realized that Itachi had no idea what happened. Swallowing the massive lump in his throat, the blonde said softly, I failed. What? Itachi asked, turning his fully to Naruto in astonishment. Madara, he was betrayed by Zetsu. Kaguya Otsutsuki was brought back to life using your forefather as a medium. Sasuke and I tried to fight her, we really tried. But I was nearly killed. And so Sasuke used this jutsu he just learned, and well, he sent me to another planet nearly 70 years into the future. By the time I got back, everyone was long dead and gone. Naruto explained, too ashamed to even look at Itachi. I see. Closing his eyes in frustration, Naruto said, I'm sorry. Because of me, all of your sacrifices were for nothing. I'm so sorry. You are not responsible, the Uchiha interrupted firmly. Naruto stopped, eyes wide as he stared at Itachi in shock. What? The blame lays on this Kaguya woman, on Zetsu and Madara. On Obito, Nagato. The blame lies on me. We are the ones responsible. I am responsible. I can only imagine the pain you've been through. Because of me. Do not ever apologize to me. Itachi said, somehow looking straight at Naruto as he said this. All the blonde could do was laugh. We're both just a bunch of broken fools, huh? Itachi smiled at that. You'd have made a grand Hokage, Naruto. You too, Itachi. Smiling at that, Itachi got up as he said, Come. I will take you to Nastrand. Oh, right. Naruto muttered, getting up and following after the Uchiha. Taking notice of the key, he noticed that the pain had dulled quite a bit, now only a slight throb. Wait, what about the zombie things? The Hellwalkers stay clear of Nastrand. Whatever is in there, it frightens them to their core. The few times I have gotten close, I felt incredibly uneasy. It was the kind of feeling I'd get when I was around Pain and Toby. The Uchiha explained. We should still hurry. Your presence is an unknown variable, and they attack anything in that category without prejudice. I would know. Okay. The Uzumaki muttered. Let's go then. As they walked out of the tower, Itachi looked back over his shoulder. Keep up if you can. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Are you challenging me to a foot race? I don't challenge. The Uchiha muttered softly. Let's move. With that, he burst off in a blur of motion. Naruto smiled as he watched the man speed away. He doesn't challenge, huh? I think you should catch up, brat. Kurama muttered. Taking time to stretch his legs as Kurama talked, the blonde said. I'm going. Getting in a runner's stance, Naruto waited another second before blitzing forward. Several seconds later, he was now parallel with Itachi, giving the raven-haired man a large smile and full salute. Itachi didn't seem to want to speak. In fact, he barely acknowledged Naruto at all. Instead, he kept pushing forward, taking the lead as the two sprinted towards their destination. Their terrain began to change once again, this time becoming more mountainous. Jagged iced over rocks jutted out of the ground, all leading up to a mountain range shaped like an M. And there, in the center of the two peaks, sat what Naruto at first assumed was a star peeking out and shining through. But as they got closer, he eventually realized that it wasn't a star, but a door. Is that it? Naruto asked. Itachi, his eyebrows knitted close together, nodded. Yes. It's not what I expected. Well, I didn't really know what I was expecting. Naruto mumbled as they continued their trek towards the door. Naruto, why are you here? Itachi asked. Jumping over a large boulder that was in his way, Naruto said. I was asked to by this guy, a king. He's the ruler of this planet or realm called Asgard. He's dying, and the power that holds the thing in Nastrand Bay is connected to him in some way. As soon as he dies, she gets free. She? Naruto nodded. His daughter, Hela? After a second of thought, Itachi asked. What do you get out of this? A powerful object called the Reality Stone. There's this guy named Thanos who's after it, and 5 others just like it. Each one holds the power to control an aspect of the universe. Space, power, mind, reality, soul, and time. So, I'm trying to find as many of them as I can before he does. I've got 3 right now, this'll be my 4th. Naruto explained. And what will you do with the stones? Itachi asked. Once this Thanos is dealt with, what happens with the stones you've collected? I dunno. Naruto shrugged half-heartedly. Another second of thought passed. And if you were to have all 6, you could control all aspects of the universe? Yes. Including the power to control life? Yes. Several moments passed between them as they continued to run towards the door. Finally, Itachi asked, Have you ever been told the story of the 2 tigers and a strawberry? Naruto looked at the man curiously. What? No. I suppose you wouldn't have, not being an Uchiha. My father told it to me many times as a child. Itachi muttered as they avoided a pillar of ice and rock. A lone man travels along a field, stumbling across a hungry tiger. The man flees, followed closely by the salivating predator. Coming to a precipice, the man uses a lone vine to swing himself over the edge. From above, the tiger sniffs. Trembling, the man looks down below to find another tiger, waiting patiently. Only the vine saved him. The man looks around, spotting a fresh strawberry near him. Grasping the vine with one hand, he uses the other to reach for the luscious fruit. And oh, how sweet it tasted. Waiting for the man to continue, Naruto eventually realized he had finished his story. That's it? He asked lamely. My father told me that the story explains that you have to enjoy the present moment, that suffering is unavoidable, and that you must be grateful for what's in front of you. Itachi lectured softly. Sighing, Naruto said, I know what you're trying to say, My father believed this interpretation was wrong. Itachi said firmly, looking Naruto in the eye. He believed that the man on the vine was a fool who was too busy enjoying the fruits of life to see that he was in danger. He prioritized the pleasures of life over survival. Naruto looked away as he asked, Is that what you believe then? Yes, for the longest time. Itachi admitted, I have always thought that the story was cut off too short. I believe the man used the strawberry to feed the tiger below, and climbed to safety. But I think that kind of thinking is what led me to here, what led me down my path of familicide. To spying on Akatsuki. To fighting Sasuke instead of simply talking to him like I should have. Before Naruto could continue, he realized the pain coming from his ki had faded completely. We're here, Naruto said, spotting the door as they entered a plateau, a glowing doorway lighting the area in a golden hue. Itachi stopped, his blue complexion noticeably paler due to the proximity of Nastrand. This is where I leave you then. Stopping as well, Naruto sighed as he looked Itachi in the eye. Or well, as much as he could with the cloth covering the man's eyes. Thank you, Itachi. Smiling softly, Itachi bowed. Goodbye, Naruto Uzumaki dash. The man found himself cut off, enveloped in a tight hug by the now shaking Naruto. Ignoring the ice that was building around him as he held onto Itachi, Naruto muttered, Goodbye. Without looking back, Naruto let go of the fallen piece of his home, marching towards the door. Pressing the key on his palm onto the door, he watched as the light faded to reveal an ordinary-looking wooden door. Turning the knob, Naruto took one last look back, barely catching Itachi turn away as he began his trek back down the mountainside. As the door opened and closed, Itachi Uchiha slowly walked away from the door of Nastrand, ignoring the frozen tear streaks along his face, accepting them as the symbol of his eternal anguish. How do you think he is doing? Odin hummed from his seat, staring into the fire as he answered his son. It's hard to tell. The shadow clone that Naruto had left behind with the Asgardians shrugged. I'm sure that the boss is doing fine. Amora looked to the clone. Is there any way for you to know if he isn't? Oh, well, if he makes a clone and said clone pops, I'll get those memories. So I'll get the gist of what's going on. The shadow clone explained. And the boss likes to throw us around during a fight, so I should be able to relay what's happening. After a moment of silence, Amora turned to her king. My king, I've been wondering, just how powerful is Hela? Odin hummed, running his fingers through his beard as he continued to look into the fire. It is hard to say. She was a prodigy in all forms of Asgardian combat, and having lived her entire life in war, she is a battle-hardened warrior. She can summon any weapon and survive any attack. In battle, she would slaughter half of her opponents, resurrect them with her magic, and then have our enemies fighting each other until no one was left. Without her, we would have never been able to have 9 realms under our banner. What was she like, my sister? Thor asked. His eyes slowly left the flames. Odin gave a sad smile as he said, She was a complicated creature. She was hateful, cruel, and belligerent towards our enemies, and of those we had many. Taking a shaky breath, he continued, I met her mother when I was a young prince, during our first invasion of Jotunheim. She was a giantress, a peasant girl who was unlucky enough to live in a village near the battlefield. It was a bloody war, with both sides losing. We took solace in each other, ignoring our race and prestige in a bid for comfort. From that, Hela was born. A bastard of highborn and lowborn, of god and giant. A child born of war. After the war, I agreed to take her into my house, knowing my people to be more accepting than hers ever would be. It didn't take long for us to realize she was special. Battle ran through her veins. She craved it, even if she didn't understand that at first. The only thing she loved more than a fight was Asgard. But the people, they weren't so enthused. After her banishment, after what she did, they were all too welcome to forget about the hellish half-breed. They etched her out of our history. What did she do? The shadow clone asked. What was so horrible that her own people would willingly push her out of their memory? Odin kept his eye contact with Thor. Have you ever wondered, my son, why it is your mother and I took so long to have you, after I had secured all the realms? Blinking in confusion, Thor said. No, I never have. It is because you weren't our firstborn. Both Naruto and Thor looked at Odin as though he'd grown anther-head. What? Thor forced out. Frigga and I had a son before you, my son. Odin elaborated. His name was Baldur. Thor slowly began to process this. I had an older brother? Yes. Odin answered softly. Baldur was born just as the 9 realms had been unified. He was a beautiful child, so gracious and cheerful he gave a light that warmed you to your core when you neared it. Many believed him to be the symbol of Asgard's future. Your mother was so fearful that this light would fade, that she used her magic to persuade every object in the 9 realms to vow to never hurt the light of Asgard. The only one who refused this vow was Hela. Why? Naruto asked. The Allfather released a slow breath. Since his inception, she was plagued with nightmares of a man made of light bringing about Ragnarok. Every night she watched him tear Asgard asunder, plaguing our lands with fire and brimstone. After Baldur was born, she believed that he was the one she saw, that Baldur was to be the catalyst of Ragnarok. She persisted her nightmares to be visions, and that it was her duty to save Asgard at all costs. And when the nightmares became too much, she strangled the boy in his sleep. The room grew quiet after that for a long moment, no one knowing what to say as they swallowed the Allfather's story. That silence was eventually interrupted when the shadow clone suddenly exploded in a puff of smoke. Amora shot up from her chair. What happened? Following soon after her, Thor said. It popped. The enchantress gave the prince a side glance that essentially said, no shit. It's as I feared then. Odin muttered as he stared at the place the clone had been. Realizing what the king was saying, Amora said. You think Nastrin's enchantments have cut off the connection between the shadow clone and the maelstrom? I was not sure if the boy's ability lay within the enchantment's guidelines, but it seems Frigga's spell is more powerful than I thought. Odin said thoughtfully. More than likely any others he has left behind have popped away as well. Do you think he knows? Thor asked. He is supposed to know what they know, the clone said. More than likely he won't know until he leaves Nastrind. Amora answered. If he leaves. Odin remained silent, too preoccupied with staring into the fire, watching as figures danced in the flames. Naruto raised his hands up over his eyes as he stared out over the vast mountain range he found himself in. The sun, if there was one, seemed to be permanently hidden by the wall of clouds that hung in the sky, leaving the air with a gray hue. Jumping down the mountainside, he used magnet release to push him off of the ground and fly off in search of his quarry. Flying at top speed for several minutes, Naruto almost missed the cabin that sat on a large plateau. Hovering directly above it, he raised an eyebrow when he realized the building looked to be made of some kind of black metal or stone. Obsidian? Yeah, sure, he'd go with that. He was about to begin descending when a large slab of said obsidian shot out from the ground, the tip fashioned into a sharp edge. It came up so fast and suddenly Naruto almost didn't dodge it, shouting in surprise as he contorted his body to avoid the attack. Well, this is a surprise. A visitor? My, has father finally sent someone new for me to play with? What was the name of the last one, Hermod? I hope you're more entertaining than that fool was. The origin of the voice came from inside the cabin, her strong drawl muffled by the thick stone walls of her abode. Dropping down to the ground, Naruto quickly ascended to his 6-path sage mode in preparation. Tightening his muscles in anticipation, he waited as the door to the cabin slowly opened. With steady grace, a lithe figure stepped out of the darkness, her form covered by a loose long-sleeved dress that was same color as her obsidian constructs. Her raven hair long and unkempt, she looked wild as she smiled at him with a hungry tint in her eye. Her bare feet padding against the stone floor, she took several steps closer before stopping just out of arm's length. Raising her chin up in an attempt to look down at him, Her smile grew as she asked confidently. I'll admit I'm a little rusty, but isn't it customary for an Asgardian warrior to bow to their queen? Naruto gave an apologetic smile. I'm no Asgardian, sorry. Oh? Hela asked, looking him up and down curiously. What are you then? You're not pretty enough to be an elf, and you're too handsome to be a giant or dwarf. Blinking, Naruto rubbed the back of his head as he said, Oh, well, I never really thought of a name for what I am now that I think about it. I guess we can go with calling me an elemental for now. An elemental? Hela tested the word. Never heard of you. Though, that would explain you being on fire. You're Hela, right? Naruto asked. Raising her arms out in a grandiose fashion, she exclaimed. I am Hela, Odin's daughter, conqueror of the 9 realms, Asgard's executioner, the Raven King's war dog. I am the goddess of death dash. Hela's introduction was halted by Naruto charging into her, grabbing her by the throat as he slammed her into her cabin. The goddess of death didn't seem to mind all that much, looking at the blonde with amusement. Name's Naruto, he introduced. I think you know why I'm here. Of course. Hela returned enthusiastically. Let me indulge you, boy. Out of thin air, an obsidian hammer appeared in her hand with a loud twang. Naruto barely had time to raise his arms up to block before she swung it up into his torso with a shocking amount of strength. Naruto was sent skidding back from the hit, shaking his arms to fend off the ringing that was currently vibrating through his bones. She hits hard, brat. No shit. Naruto thought back. Way harder than I thought she could. Quickly, Naruto summoned a pair of truth-seeking balls, shaping them into staffs before giving them a testing twirl. Going all out from the get-go, huh? Kurama asked. She's not someone to underestimate, Naruto said aloud before charging in. As he had been recovering, Hela had converted her dress into a tight bodysuit, running her hands through her hair and transforming it into a strange antler-like headpiece. Summoning an obsidian sword to go with her hammer, she smiled gleefully as she charged in to meet the blonde. Her smirk would fall as her hammer was vaporized by one of the truth-seeking staffs, her instincts screaming at her to dodge the incoming jab from the second staff. A wall of obsidian shot out from the ground, intercepting the Naruto's attack just in time. As Hela jumped, she raised an eyebrow when she saw that the staff had completely vaporized the area it had struck her construct. What kind of magic is that? She asked herself. Naruto charged in, doing his best to get in a good hit with his highly destructive constructs. Hela proved more agile than the blonde could have thought, dodging and swerving around the staffs with a royal grace. Taking a hit to the arm, she frowned as she felt the spot disappear, leaving a hole in her bicep. Her healing factor taking over in an instant, Hela jumped back to avoid any more of those blasted staffs. Twirling her sword, she closed her eyes as she began to draw on her reserves. Naruto raised an eyebrow as what looked like black mascara suddenly appeared around her eyes. He quickly recognized what she was doing. She can draw on natural energy? Naruto asked in wonder. Opening her eyes, Hela looked at the blonde with predatory eyes. Her sword now covered in a dark green aura, she charged forward with an increased speed. Quickly ducking to avoid the horizontal slash, he felt her cleave off a chunk of his hair. Realizing she was going for a vertical downward cut, Naruto raised up one of his staffs on instinct, cranking up its capability for destruction as high as he could. He could only watch in horror as her blade sliced through his staffs like butter, the sword coming down on him with the promise of death. Hela smirked in satisfaction as she cut through his weapon and then him soon after, only to frown as he exploded in a puff of smoke. What? She wondered aloud, looking around the area for the blonde. Naruto, who was hiding behind a pillar of stone, was going over recent events in his head. Of course she can use natural energy. Odin said she drew her power from Asgard. I should have known he was being literal. All fathers aren't metaphorical about this kinda shit. As long as she can draw from this planet, or whatever it is this place is, she can negate the truth-seeking balls. That's one of your big plays, brat. What's the plan now? Kurama asked. I don't know, he admitted with frustration. From what Odin said, she can heal from any wound, which is why my plan was to use the truth-seeking balls as a get-around. Now I'll have to go with plan B, battle of attrition. Battle of attrition, he confirmed. His strategy session was interrupted by an obsidian slab erupting in front of him, driving into the wall behind him with the tip spearing the area right next to Naruto's head. That was a warning shot, boy, Hela called out. Don't make this boring for me. I'd hate to have to send my father's sacrifices after you. Walking out into the open, Naruto eyed Hela carefully from across the plateau. I never thought I'd meet someone who could use Sage Mode like I can. Sage Mode? Hela questioned. What a silly name. What do you call yours then? The blonde asked. Strength. Hela answered. Summoning his Chikudo, Naruto flipped it in a reverse grip as he channeled lightning chakra into the blade. As he shot off towards her, he quickly created 3 shadow clones who followed after him on the warpath. His blade clashed with Hela's, the blonde grunting as he felt the energy from her blade nearly break through his lightning. The sword lock wasn't allowed to last for long, as one of his clones dived in with a vertical slash towards the crown of her skull. The clone's life was cut to shreds by an obsidian spear that ejected from the ground into his neck. The 2 others managed to deflect the spears she'd sent their way, coming in for a slash at her neck and knees respectively. Blocking the strike at her neck with her other sword, she then summoned another obsidian wall to deflect the slash at her knee, a loud double clang echoing around them. From the wall, a spike shot out and lodged itself into the clone's stomach. The expected puff of smoke was replaced by a massive explosion that swallowed Hela and the 2 Narutos. Storm release, laser circus! Naruto thought as he went through the necessary hand seals. Shoving his hands in front of him, a ball of light soon surrounded his conjoined fists before multiple laser beams shot forward towards the cloud of smoke his clone had left behind. The force from the beams cleared the smoke in their path, revealing a perfectly fine Hela who was quickly drilled into by the jutsu. Flying through her cabin, Hela was carried over the plateau and sent careening into rocky slopes below. Following after her, Naruto quickly appeared right in her personal space. Raisin Mori! Channeling chakra into his arm, Naruto grunted as he quickly summoned his attack before shoving it forward. The spiraling spear of chakra drove cleanly through Hela's torso, the woman grunting in pain as the attack sent her flying into a stone pillar. Landing next to her crater, Naruto didn't let up as steam began to build along his arm. Boiling release, erupting propulsion fist. He called out loud as Hela tried to pick herself up. The steam now built up to its boiling point. Naruto finally released the buildup and fired his arm into Hela's face. The pillar Hela had been lodged in was obliterated, with Hela being sent flying once again. Pushing herself up, Hela heard the blonde's voice call out. Wind release, great breakthrough. Summoning a sword and driving it into the ground, she managed to keep herself from being sent flying any more than she already had. As the wind finally died down, his voice could be heard once again. Earth release, headhunter jutsu. Immediately deducing that the attack would be coming from the ground, Hela jumped up into the air to avoid whatever the blonde had in store. She would be disappointed though when instead of an earth-based attack, Naruto instead appeared just above her, a disk of energy in his hand. Smirking in satisfaction from the surprised look on her face, Naruto heaved his Raisin Shuriken into the Hela's direction. With the close distance between them, it only took a second for the attack to make contact, exploding on impact. Due to their close proximity, Naruto was hit by the wave of wind, popping in a puff of smoke. Naruto, who'd been watching his shadow clone from the ground below, smiled at the successful combo. As Hera's smoking form descended to Naruto's level, Kurama spoke from within the seal. I'll admit, that was a pretty smart move, shouting the names of your techniques out loud so she'd think she knew what was coming only to pull her into a trap with a fake out. Never thought you'd have it in you. Yeah well dash, are you done yet? Picking herself up, Hela looked the blonde with annoyance. Patting away the dust and debris that had accumulated around her person, the goddess of death asked again. Are you done yet? Well dash. Naruto gagged as Hela grabbed him by the throat, slamming him down in the ground with enough force to crater the earth with a sick crack. Pressing her heel up against his chest with an incredible amount of strength, she said, Where's the key, boy? Before he could grunt out an answer, she spotted it on the palm of his hand. Ah, there it is. Hold still while I take that off your hand. Summoning a sword with a thwang, she said, This'll hurt. As she went to cut off his hand, Naruto quickly summoned a hand made out of chakra from his cloak, grabbing the blade in time. Summoning another hand, he drove it into her chest to separate the two of them long enough for him to get up. You're not getting this key. You're dying today, Naruto said softly as he allowed his chakra arms to recede back to him. Hela scowled at him. I'm getting out of here, boy. Now that I have a way to get out of this Hell's Cape, there's nothing in the universe that's going to stop me. I don't know why you're here. Hell, I don't know why I'm here. But all I know is that I can't let someone like you out into the world. I've dealt with enough of that before. I'm not really in the mood for a sequel. Naruto said. We're here for the same reason. Hela drawled. We're here because of that old fool I called my father. Naruto and Hela began circling one another, watching for any sign of attack. Why did he send you here? You're his daughter, why would he banish you here? What did you do to Asgard that was so terrible? Hela summoned an obsidian sword and hammer into her hands. I didn't do anything to Asgard. I did it for Asgard. If that fool can't see that, then fine. But I'm getting out of here. When I'm free, Asgard will welcome me back with open arms, Odin be damned. I know it. I'm the reason they're what they are now. I saved them from Ragnarok. I am their queen. The goddess of death exclaimed with true conviction. They'll love me, they'll have to have missed me, and knowing that I can't stay here a second longer. Both at once, they charged into each other. Naruto did his best to avoid the flurry of blades that came his way, all while trying to get in a good hit himself. For every punishing hit he gave, she returned the favor with a deep cut. Both fought through the pain, the blonde knowing that any sign of slowing down would mean a debilitating blow, and because nothing he did gave her any lasting damage. As their brawl grew in intensity, time seemed to slow down as each of them found an opening in the other's guard. With a roar, Naruto shoved a Rasengan into Hela's face. With a battle cry, Hela drove her energy-encased hammer into Naruto's stomach. The following explosion ripped through the mountain range. You're not doing so good, brat. Shoo, shut up. As he said this aloud, Naruto grunted as he got up from the crater Hela had sent him in. His chakra cloak having faded, his clothes were torn to shreds, blood dripping heavily down the side of his face, and a red pool had begun to form along his abdomen running down into his pants. Stumbling as he got up, he flinched as he heard his blood begin to drip down onto the ground. Fuck. He cursed, gingerly feeling his wound. A few of his ribs were poking out of the skin, though luckily Kurama had already begun the healing process. Stepping forward, the blonde ripped his shirt off his person out of annoyance, grunting as his healing ribs grinded roughly in their partially broken state. I'm sure she's perfectly fine, which is just fucking great for me. She can keep up with you in 6-pad sage mode, she can negate what's probably your most destructive technique, and anything else you throw at her she can shrug off. She's a doozy, brat. Kurama observed. You've still got cosmic sage mode though. Naruto sighed. Yeah, I guess. I think I'm gonna tire her out a bit before I pull that out. And how do you plan on tiring her out, exactly? Kurama wondered. That natural energy of hers has to run out eventually, she'll be too tired to heal herself like she does. Then that'll give me the opening I need. Naruto explained tiredly, though admittedly he was feeling better with Kurama's healing. Climbing up and over a rocky slope, Naruto looked out over the mountain range in search of Hela. Quickly spotting her sitting lackadaisically down below him. Giving him a lazy wave and smile, she said, You survived. Congratulations. Thanks. Naruto said back, squinting his eyes as he scratched the back of his head. You're a tough customer, lady. Hela laughed, crossing her legs daintily. You're not so bad yourself, what's your name again? Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto Uzumaki. Hela said, testing the name. A strange title, I think I'll stick with boy. His eyebrow twitching, Naruto growled out. I'd come up with a nickname of my own, but I don't know you good enough to really come up with anything with enough bite to make us even. Humph. Hela huffed pompously. Perhaps I hit you a little too hard. I've been told I have trouble holding back. But then again, those were the words of losers. And I have never lost. Never? The shinobi asked. You're here, aren't you? I'm alive, aren't I? She shot back. Right. Naruto drawled out slowly as his 6-pad sage mode reactivated. Hela was about to respond when she found a fist lodged in her face, with a crippling kick coming not far behind into her abdomen. Her body sent up momentarily into the air. She was then hit with several jabs all over her person, each hit keeping her in the air long enough for Naruto to send another punishing strike. At first Hela ignored the pain, as she healed herself almost as soon as she was hit, but as the barrage continued, she couldn't help but flinch as the strikes seemed to hit harder and harder. Eventually she grew tired of the onslaught and sent a barrage of her own. Naruto jumped back as several spikes of obsidian shot out of the ground, sweating nervously as spikes seemed to sprout from the originals, this trend continuing as the wall of sharp obsidian tried to skewer him to death. Shooting his hands out as he tried to use his magnet release to stop the slabs from getting any closer, only to curse when they continued unabated. Obsidian isn't magnetic, you damned fool! Kurama shouted. Use something else before you get us both killed. Shut up, shut up, shut up. Naruto thought violently before chanting in his head. Lava release, Kagutsuchi's wrath. Slamming his hands together, he did a quick set of dodges before slapping them down onto the ground. Hightailing it out of the way, he smirked as the ground began to shake violently before a massive plume of lava burst out of the ground, melting the obsidian spikes on contact. The wall of lava easily kept the rest of the spikes at bay. Flipping through another set of hand seals, Naruto thought. Haven't tested this one out in a fight yet, but here goes nothing. Storm release, light fong! Puckering his lips together, he watched as a thin beam of purple energy shot out of his mouth with an impressive speed. Cutting through the wall of lava and any spikes that got in its way, the thin laser beam locked on to Hela with clear prejudice. Quickly summoning a sword, Hela raised her sword that was quickly encased in natural energy and intercepted the attack, the woman being sent skidding back but still managing to keep her ground. Damn! Naruto thought. That should have cut right through her natural energy. Why the hell do I still suck at this? Complete mastery of chakra my ass. Jumping back, he covered his face with his arms as Hela decimated the ground in front of him with her sword slash. Quickly finding himself on the back foot, he summoned a kunai and added natural energy of his own as he did his best to deflect her strikes. Reaching out with his magnet release, he summoned his chikudo towards him. Hela, seeing the sharp sword come flying towards her blade first, summoned another sword before deflecting it. Hela now found herself on the back foot, with Naruto attacking from the front, while having his magnet release embodied Chikuto attack from behind. But the goddess of death proved to be a better swordsman than he'd ever be, easily fighting off his strategy with pure skill. Their swords clanging with a vibrating harshness, Naruto pushed her back with his superior strength. Quickly blowing a stream of fire in her face to get some distance, Naruto followed through by summoning an earth dragon that attempted to swallow her whole, but the woman proved too fast, giving an evasive maneuver before coming in with her own attack. Green energy covering her obsidian blades, Naruto knew better than to get hit by an attack like that. Dodging the attacks, he then created a Rasengan in each hand. As a sword swung in for a decapitating strike, Naruto deflected it with a Rasengan, the spinning orb holding off the natural energy long enough for Naruto to shove the remaining one into her chest. The explosion of pure chakra blasted the goddess off into the dirt. Coughing as dust managed to get in her lungs, Hela attempted to get up as best she could with a hole in her torso, only to find a pair of hands pressing into her shoulders from behind. Looking up, she found Naruto smirking down at her. Magnet release, journey to the center of the earth. In that instant, it felt as though the weight of the world had landed on Hela's person. The weight proved too heavy for even the earth to handle, pushing her into the dirt as though it were water. She could only scream as she descended into the depths of Nastrand. Falling on his ass, Naruto caught his breath as he looked down at the Hela-shaped hole he'd created. Damn brat, that was brutal. How far do you think she'll go? Who knows, Naruto thought with a shrug. Sitting down cross-legged, he closed his eyes in concentration. I had to have sent her dozens of miles down, that's a shit ton of weight to get by. When she stops herself, and she will, it'll take a lot of effort to dig herself out. She should be tired enough for me to use Cosmic Sage mode safely. The sound of the ground shattering filled Naruto's ears, with a massive mountain of obsidian emerging from the earth soon afterwards. Not long after, several arms shot out of the loosened ground. Slowly, several women dressed in white and gold armor emerged stiffly. Leading the pack was a man wearing what Naruto recognized as his guardian armor, a battle axe in his hand. Raising an eyebrow, Naruto realized these women were undead, going off the fact their flesh had begun to peel and rot away, their sunken eyes glowing a dangerous green. She got out of that pretty quick. Kurama observed as Hela emerged behind her platoon of revived soldiers. Grunting with clear exertion, Hela emerged with assistance from her obsidian mountain, her once pristine bodysuit torn and ruined, her headpiece gone, leaving her wild hair to flutter in the wind. Glaring murderously at the blonde, the goddess of death growled. End him. The undead needed nothing else to be said, charging forward as they drew the weapons. Shit. Naruto cursed as he shot up to his feet, his chikudo flying back to his hand just in time to deflect one of the women's blades from beheading him. Their blades locked, Naruto couldn't help but take the time to admire the woman's emerald double-edged blade. Pushing her off of him, he withdrew a kunai to block another strike, only for his eyes to widen in shock as the emerald blade cut through his kunai with ease. Jumping back, he gripped the slash he'd gotten, blood caking along his fingers. That's a dragon fawn, boy. Hela warned with a sadistic glint in her eye. I hope these Valkyries of mine leave enough of you for me. Valkyries? Naruto questioned aloud as he quickly dodged a triple attack from 3 separate Valkyrie, the women doing their best to surround and overwhelm him. Doing a quick head count, Naruto counted 9 of these Valkyries, meaning he had 10 of these undead as guardians to fight, including the man who hadn't jumped in yet. Growling as he continued to dodge 9 different razor-sharp dragon fangs from cutting into him any more than they already had, he flinched as a few lucky pot shots managed to get into his guard. Fuck this, he growled, pushing his hands out. He thought. Magnet release, involuntary suicide. With a jolt, all 9 Valkyrie stopped mid-swing, their blades frozen in place. Slowly, their blades began to move on their own, turning on their masters as the tips of their blades began to point towards their necks. The blades rattled as the Valkyrie did their best to keep from killing themselves, knowing better than to let go of the sword. But this gave Naruto enough times to form 9 hands made of chakra, each hand summoning a Rasengan before shooting off into a predisposed Valkyrie, carefully aiming the Rasengans into the hands that were holding their swords. Taking both their dragon fangs and Rasengans to the throats, the undead Valkyrie were blown off their feet. Naruto was unable to take a celebratory break, instead maneuvering his body around the axe that tried to split him in half like a banana peel. The ground exploded open with the axe's impact, the blonde throwing his hands up to avoid getting hit by debris. This proved fatal, as the blunt end of the axe found itself lodged in his abdomen. Spitting up blood and spittle, Naruto was sent flying by the brutal attack. Landing on his back, the blonde was thankful he had enough awareness to roll over, missing the axe head that wanted to open his chest up. Slamming a hand on the ground, the Asgardian was grabbed by a hand made from the earth, a Horatian seal in middle of its earthen palm. Using his Asgardian strength, the man broke free from the grip. The man looking around wildly, he searched for the now missing Naruto. Hearing a whistle from above, the Asgardian looked up to find Naruto hovering up above him, a mass of black energy in his hands. But almost as soon as his eyes landed on the blonde, he was gone in a flash. Grinning viciously as his feet hit the ground, Naruto stood right within the Asgardian's personal space, the man still looking up at where he'd been while in the air. He didn't give him the time to realize what was going on, instead shooting his hands out and unleashing his tailed beast bomb point blank. Hela's eyes narrowed as a massive burst of energy exploded from where Naruto had taken his fight with the Valkyrie and the Asgardian warrior once named Hermod. Damned boy. She cursed as the wounds Naruto had given her with that last attack finally healed. She'd wasted a good bit of energy resurrecting those Valkyrie and Hermod. Running her hands through her hair, she molded her headpiece into place. I'm getting really tired of you calling me that. Turning, she narrowed her eyes when she saw the blonde walking towards her at a lazy pace. He was no longer on fire, his torn clothes and beaten person in full view. Though, there was something different. His presence was deafening. As he walked closer, she realized that he had markings on his similar to hers. Only the color around his eyes was gold with a matching dot in the middle of his forehead, his eyes now royal purple. What did you do? Hela asked, almost warily. This is cosmic energy. I think people like to call it the power cosmic, Naruto informed as he gave his arms some testing stretches. Hela seemed floored by this news. You can control the power cosmic? What are you, some kind of celestial? Some would think so, Naruto offered with a large smile. Giving him another once-over, Hela asked softly. What is your name? She asked again. Naruto, he answered helpfully. Well then, Naruto, let's see who dies first, Hela offered enthusiastically. Swinging her arm out, a sword appeared with a resounding thwang. Charging forward, she took a might swing into his neck. And just as the razor-sharp blade was about to slice into his neck, it burst into a clutter of butterflies. Hela blinked. Wadash. A fist lodged itself into her chin. She'd never been hit so hard in her life. Blood flew from her mouth, her body in the beginning motions of stumbling back when another fist came and hit her in the face again, followed by another into her stomach that landed so hard a sonic boom echoed through the mountain range. As Hela was mid-bounce when Naruto seemingly teleported above her, his hands enveloped in a thick purple energy. Thrusting his hands forward, he released the energy into a powerful blast wave. Somehow, the goddess of death managed to dodge the attack, sending a wave reactionary obsidian spears right for the still airborne Naruto. A quick wave of his hand, and the spears were turned into dust. Following after her, the sage threw around more of his cosmic energy to try and vaporize her. Though he managed to get a few good pot shots in, Hela had managed to do her best in avoiding his powerful attacks. Flinching, Naruto cursed as he felt cosmic energy he'd gathered begin to slip away. "You know transmutation drains your reserves, brat," Kurama chastised. "Now you're going to be wiped out until you can gather some more, idiot." "Shut up, Kurama," Naruto muttered aloud. "I didn't think it would be so short. It wasn't helpful that you fired off one large wave of cosmic energy after another. Cosmic energy that she's managed to dodge, by the way." "The Biju grunted irritably. Sweat began to build along his brow, his breath getting heavier as the last of his cosmic energy left him. Quickly creating a shadow clone, he didn't bother ordering it to go and gather more, the clone sprinting away from the battlefield with gusto. Once again, the two stood across from each other. This time, though, they didn't say a word, simply glaring at each other as they regained some footing. Without warning, both charged into each other. Fists, knees, elbows, anything they could use to hurt the other, they used it, beating the life out of each other with every ground-shattering blow. Both seemed to lack the energy to do anything other than throw themselves together in a flurry of combos, their vicious and desperate attacks hiding the fact that they couldn't afford to throw anything else for fear of further exhaustion. Catching an elbow that would have caved her head in, Hela scowled in effort to keep the appendage at bay. Dropping a fist into Naruto's side, she smirked in satisfaction as blood shot from his lips onto her face. Wanting to feel that satisfaction again, she drove her fist into his side again and again, nearly laughing as each hit pained him more and more. Finally swatting away one of her punches, Naruto drove his forehead into her nose, hearing her nose crack from the force. As she stumbled back, her nose reknitting itself slower than it might have at the beginning of the fight, Hela spat out the blood that spilled from her nose into her mouth with an unladylike forcefulness. Giving off battle cries filled with frustration, anger, and exhaustion, they rushed each other with a murderous abandon. Their hands connecting in the middle, the two engaged in a duel of strength as they tried to force the other into submission. As Naruto began to push Hela down into herself, he felt the memories of his clone come flooding in. Giving an exaggerated grunt, Naruto muttered, "Fuck this." Like an explosion, energy began to emit from Naruto's person, his six-path sage cloak flickering to life. Only this time, the flames of his cloak weren't golden, but purple. The markings of his seal now glowing gold, his eyes shined a dangerous red. Nastran quaked as his cosmic sage cloak took hold, the ground beneath him splintering from the force of his chakra. The once dark mountain range seemed to find daylight, as the purple sun that was Naruto lit up area around them. Eventually, the light around Naruto dimmed, the ground was allowed to rest, and the pressure Hela felt submitted enough for her to breathe. Lifting his hand up, Naruto quickly formed the tailed beast bomb in the palm of his hand. 3 additional, but smaller ones, followed after, rotating around the center sphere like planets would a sun. "Survive this," Naruto challenged. Boom! A viciously blinding light overtook Nastran, washing away the mountain they'd been fighting on like a wave from the ocean would a sand castle. Lightning swirled, fires raged, rocks cracked and crumbled. As the explosion of light faded, the sound of pure ozone took its place. Hovering over the canyon his planetary-tailed beast bomb had created, the blonde searched for any sign of the Asgardian executioner. Spotting movement in the distance, Naruto quickly flew down to get a closer look. At the edge of the canyon, pulling herself out of the rubble with her remaining arm, Hela screamed in rage as she freed herself from the obstructing boulders. Panting as she dragged herself along the ground, she glared up at the glowing presence above her. The longer she stared, the look of anger was slowly replaced by frightened realization. Raising an eyebrow, he frowned as he looked at the bisected woman, her missing arm slowly worming its way back to its full-grown state, her lower half growing back at a much slower pace than before. Slowly, Naruto descended to the ground below, landing gracefully in front of the goddess of death, the woman staring up at him as she tried to come to terms with what she'd realized. "I don't have long before this form begins to take its toll, so I guess I should end this now." Raising his hand up, Naruto summoned a Rasengan in his hand, the sphere of spinning chakra mixed heavily with cosmic energy. "If it's any consolation, I'm sorry." Pulling back, he frowned as he readied the finishing blow dash. "It's you." Only to stop at her whispered final words. Blinking, he asked, "What?" Naruto could truly say he was shocked, as tears began to build along Hela's eyes, her natural energy finally fading away. "You're the one. The one from my visions. You are the one I saw." Not. His arm lowering, Naruto watched as the goddess of death began to retch, fighting for her words. His face devolving into pity, he asked. Not who? Collapsing in on herself, Hela managed to fight off unconsciousness long enough to mutter. Not him. As his Rasengan faded away, the purple fire that enveloped him disappeared, and the power cosmic that flowed through him left him. Naruto realized his legs seemed to think they were made of jelly. Dropping onto the ground, he grunted as an overwhelming wave of exhaustion flooded his body. Sweat dripping down his face, his breathing ragged, and his clothes in tatters, Naruto cursed when he realized he wasn't going anywhere for a while. So much for making this quick, Kurama said with a low sigh. Naruto thought, too tired to speak. The crackling of fire eating away wood was what woke her up. The smell of cooking food is what got her attention. Shooting upright, Hela looked around frantically in an attempt to understand her new situation. It was night, well more cloudy than usual. A campfire was burning just a few feet away from her, and Naruto Uzumaki was sitting directly across from her, holding a cup of noodles over the fire with a hungry look on his face. When was the last time you've eaten? Blinking, Hela made to speak, only to realize her throat was incredibly dry, forcing her voice into a hoarse wheeze. What? When was the last time you ate? Naruto repeated. Or drank? 1500 years, give or take. Hela offered with a blasé flip of the wrist, only to wince as she realized she'd used her recently regrown arm, the fresh arm still incredibly sore from the rabid regrowth. Sighing, he reached over to his side and tossed her a bottle of water. Watching as it bounced in front of her, she raised a questioning eyebrow towards the blonde. Sighing again, he muttered, If I wanted to kill you, I wouldn't poison you. I'd just kill you. Then why haven't you? She demanded with force. Why didn't you end it? Why don't you now? Because I want to know what you did, Naruto answered truthfully. Your dad didn't bother to share with me before I left, but I managed to gather that it was something big. I'd like to know if you're really so evil that I need to preemptively deal with you before you get released from this hellhole. That there was no saving you from yourself. That you're a lost cause who needs to be wiped away. In my experience, very few are unredeemable. Give me time, and I'd break through to them if I really tried. But if you're just another Madara or Kaguya, then I'm gonna do what needs to be done. Hela looked at him for a long time, her eyes narrowed with clear hesitance. Grabbing the water bottle gingerly, she slowly unscrewed the cap before taking a tentative sip. Tasting nothing extra other than the blood in her mouth, she tipped her head back and downed more of the water. Smiling as she finished off the bottle, Naruto looked back to his ramen cup. Pulling it away from the fire, he slowly peeled the lid away before adding the seasoning packet to the noodles. What is that? Looking up from his noodles, he spotted the goddess of death eyeing his ramen with a critical look. This? Naruto asked as he raised his cup. When she nodded, he continued. It's called ramen. They have this kinda thing in Asgard? I wouldn't know. Yeah, I suppose you wouldn't. Sipping at the broth, Naruto smiled at the familiar taste. As he began to dig it, his eyes would flicker up to see Hela looking at him curiously. Halfway through with the cup, Naruto lowered it from his lips as he asked, You want the rest? Yes, she said softly after several seconds of hesitance. Getting up, he knelt down next to her and handed her the still warm cup. Handling it gently, she brought it up to her lips and began to slurp on remaining noodles and broth. As she slurped away, Naruto asked, Do you like it? It's fine, she answered with a mouthful. Fine? Naruto tested, shaking his head in defeat as he sat down next to her. Looking at him from her peripheral, Hela asked, Do you think it's smart to sit so close? With just a few feet between them, Naruto shrugged. Maybe not for you. Humph. Hela scoffed, her eyes narrowing dangerously as she said, Is my life really hanging on my origin? Do you really think something like that matters? For me? Yes. Naruto answered matter-of-factly. I need to decide if I'm going to eat the strawberry or try and fight the tiger. Hela raised an eyebrow at the blonde's strange sentence. Turning her attention to the ramen cup in her hands, she stared into the nearly empty cup and thought. By all accounts, I am the bastard child of Odin Borson. My mother was a lowly giantress who wanted nothing to do with me. My father took me into his house, wanting to use me as a weapon to further Asgard's ambition of manifest destiny. I trained for Asgard. I fought for Asgard. I killed for Asgard. I tortured, betrayed, and decimated for my realm. I loved Asgard. But I wasn't a part of their world, not fully. I knew it, they knew it. Eventually, after we'd conquered our ninth realm, my father found true love. King Odin and Queen Frigga began to dream of peace, of ending my campaign of war and conquest. And as their dreams came true, they deemed it time to sire a child. By the time peace was brought to the realms, she gave birth to a true Odinson, a boy named Baldur. Hela paused as she took another sip from the ramen cup. Naruto watched as she collected herself, allowing her to continue her story. He is beautiful, they'd say. Hela recalled. A babe so glorious he shines of pure Asgardian light, a royal purple that emulates his stature. But I refused to see him. Why should I have? This brat had taken my right to rule. He was the symbol of everything I wasn't. Every day, Frigga's handmaidens would request my presence in her chambers, with me giving an excuse to avoid it every time. Eventually, Odin came to me himself, ordering me to see my sibling. So, as any good soldier does, I obeyed. I came up to her chambers, I walked up to his crib, and I took that babe in my arms. I held him and came to a quick conclusion. I was whelmed. I wasn't impressed, nor disappointed. All I saw was a baby. A weak, fragile creature who happened to glow a fun, if inconvenient, color. Then, Frigga told me why she really wanted me there. She informed me that she had cast a spell, asking all objects within the 9 realms to never harm her precious Baldur, and the light he gave off until he was strong enough to defend himself. She told me that due to my strength, she needed to ask me in person. I refused. Why? Naruto asked, truly curious. She asked me the same question. Hela admitted in thought. And I asked her who could possibly be able to hurt such an innocent creature? What kind of monster would do such a thing? I told her that I'd make sure he was strong enough that she'd never have to worry. She banished me from her chambers. Swirling the ramen around in the cup, the goddess of death continued. Then the visions came. I saw Asgard, the place I'd trained, fought, killed, tortured, betrayed, and decimated for, set on fire. I watched every night as my home was destroyed by an unholy force of nature. I watched as a man covered in a purple light stood amongst the flames, letting them consume the realm in its entirety. It didn't take long for me to realize that Baldur was who I was seeing. Who could mistake that light for anyone else? I told Odin of my visions, but he scoffed at me, claiming them to be silly nightmares. I held my tongue, hoping he was right. But every night the visions grew longer, more intense. Every night I watched my brother become a monster. I, as Asgard's guardian and executioner, knew something needed to be done to prevent this horrible occurrence. But I needed to be sure. I needed to know for a fact that Baldur was the monster I needed to slay. Was he? The Jinchuriki asked softly. I snuck into Frigga's chambers, came upon the crib, and took him into my arms. But I no longer saw an innocent baby. All I saw was fire and brimstone, pain and suffering, death and despair. So, I wrapped my hand around his neck and strangled the life out of him. Naruto could only watch as she set the cup down, lifting her head up in his direction. Clearly on the verge of tears, Hela said. But I was wrong. I killed that boy for nothing. I'm not a monster slayer. I'm not the wronged hero. I've spent the past 1500 years thinking what I'd done was worth it, that Asgard would know I'd saved them. That they wouldn't let my sacrifice go to waste. But now I know that if I return, I'd return as the monster who killed a defenseless child. It was then that Naruto realized what she meant at the end of their fight. Leaning forward he asked, You think you saw me, don't you? That I'm the one in your visions? Yes. But my track record doesn't impart confidence. Hela muttered softly, her eyes still on Naruto as she said, Though with that power you showed, I guess you could if you wanted to. Yeah, maybe. Naruto admitted. Fiddling with the ramen cup in her hands, Hela asked, Do you want this back, before you kill me? No, I think I'll let you keep it. The blonde said as he got up with a grunt. As a memento, I guess. Hela was floored as she watched Naruto begin to limp away. You're not going to kill me? After everything I just told you? Why? Why won't you just do what everyone wants you to do and end me? I deserve it, don't I? Naruto stopped, turning his head towards her as he frowned softly. Frowning from her spot near the fire, Hela asked, Don't I? Turning to her fully, Naruto gave her one of his trademark smiles. Sitting within Odin's cabin, the All-Father himself and Amora sipped at their tea in a comfortable silence. That silence was interrupted by a flash of light and a pair of boots landing on the ground. Amora was out of her seat in a heartbeat as she watched Naruto appear in their cabin, stumbling as he nearly collapsed onto the floor. Clearly suffering from exhaustion, she rubbed his back soothingly as he caught his breath. "How long was I gone?" Naruto demanded. "A month." Amora answered softly. 28 days, to be exact. "I was gone that long?" Naruto demanded, cursing himself in his head. "How did it go? Is she?" the enchantress asked as she helped Naruto to his chair. Sighing in relief as he took a seat, Naruto muttered, "I fought her, I beat her." Oden, taking a sip of his tea, muttered past his cup, "You let her live?" Yeah, I did." Amora, a horrified look on her face, asked, "You let the goddess of death live? Why would you dash? I gave her a choice. She knows I can beat her. I know I can beat her. She's either gonna eat the strawberry or confront the tiger." Naruto said softly, "Sage, I'm worse off than I thought if that Hiraishin took this much out of me." Oden stared at him with his lone eye, a hard gaze boring into Naruto's soul. Letting up, he took another sip from his tea. "The reality stone is on nowhere, under the protection of the collector." Raising an eyebrow, Naruto asked, "You'd follow through with your end, even though I refuse to fulfill mine?" "I see no reason not to." The Allfather reasoned, though his tone held a cryptic tone that made Naruto uneasy. Shrugging the forbidding feeling away, Naruto looked to Amora. "So, did I miss anything?" A nervous look suddenly reached the enchantress's face. Well, what?